I really feel like there is somebody calling the shots in popular culture listening to this show.
I'm looking for a girl with green eyes. Price is no object.
Superman shouldn't be dark. Superman shouldn't break people's necks. You know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't. He's Superman. That's why Batman exists, is for that kind of stuff. You're going to turn 39 this year, right?
Yeah. Oof.
Shit. And I'm going to turn 38 this year. Fuck. Shit, fuck! Live. Welcome to Long Walk Short Drink episode 43. I am Palmer, broadcasting to you from Dayton, Ohio.
And this is Dave, podcasting at you from Northfield, Minnesota. Greetings, Long Walkers.
Yeah, and this is Long Walk Short Drink. If this is your first episode, where the fuck have you been? There's a whole back catalog. I mean, thousands of hours of conversation that you're going to have to muddle through to get all the inside jokes. Good luck, new listeners.
Yes.
So
I like that. We'll just be like willfully standoffish about like, good luck jumping in, diving into this.
Yeah, like for all the listeners like me would hear that intro, be like, well, I'm never gonna listen to that podcast.
Oh no.
It's because I'm like, yep, I like there's some I've seen articles written about anime, why like anime is so intimidating for people to come into, because some of those shows in Japan have like thousands of episodes. Like, the show's just been going on forever, you know, like there's just a lot of episodes. And so for a completist to look at that and be like, there's no way I'd ever, I'm always worried I'm going to miss some inside joke or some of the inside thing, you know, like I've talked about. The whole reason I don't watch Doctor Who is because there are confirmed episodes that are destroyed that they only aired once, and then they were gone. And I know I can never see those episodes, so that whole franchise, that whole universe is gone to me. Just gone. Doesn't exist.
The bride has been watching Doctor Who for the last, I want to say a couple years, I guess. So I hear it from the other room from time to time. Actually, usually when she'll watch it is when she's taking a bath. She'll watch it on her iPad, and so a lot of if people listen with headphones or something like that to our show, it's very possible that they've heard Doctor Who in the bathroom or in the background.
Yeah,
the bathroom is just off to the right here. It's either that or Rachel Maddow that's happening. So at any given moment, it seems like.
I dated. Let me take that back. I went on a date with a girl in Indianapolis. Because it's only like 2 hours from here, right?
When was this?
This would have been, it would have before I met Ash, way before I met Ash. Probably 2012, maybe.
Okay.
And she was just crazy. I like a good crazy girl every now and then.
Crazy how?
Just like crazy story. Like, she was one of those girls. I love people who live life, right? And I totally have the complex that Kevin Smith has, that he describes when he tells the story about Joey, like how he never was going to be okay with the life that she lived prior to him. Like, he was going to have you know what I mean? Like, so I know when I meet these girls, I love them because they're like, you know, the relationship is like a bottle rocket. It's just like, you know, just like up and gone. which is exactly how this was like just one date. Really, I drove out to Indianapolis. She did come out to Dayton one time. And I told her before she came out, I was like, listen, I really don't think this is going anywhere. I'm really sorry. If you come out here, two things are going to happen. We're going to use your truck to go buy some furniture in IKEA because that's what I have planned for Saturday. Like, I'm going to go down to IKEA and get some furniture. So that's what I'm going to go do. Well, I'll come. I was like, if you come, like, if I give you gas money, like, can I get some furniture? She's like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, but again, I don't think this is going anywhere. So the only other thing that's going to happen is we're going to come back and turn on a movie and you're going to watch me put furniture together. Like, she's like,
hot.
That's, yeah. She's like, that's fine. That's fine. I'll come out there. It's like, okay. So she came out and we went to IKEA and we brought back all this furniture and like, literally, I mean, I did give her gas money. She didn't carry any of the stuff in the house. Like, I carried all the boxes and everything in myself. And we turned on Big Fish, and while Big Fish was on, I put together furniture. And she but she was super crazy, but she was obsessed with Doctor Who. That was a really long walk for a short drink. Welcome, new listeners.
Yeah.
Welcome, new listeners. That really was a long walk for a short drink, but no, she there's something about tally marks. The bride probably knows what I'm referring to, but there's something with tally marks, and it's about these things. And if you see them, you're supposed to keep track of how many times you see them, because I don't know, there's something associated with that. So she drove this S10 pickup. That's one of the reasons why I was cool with seeing her, was because I used to have an S10 pickup. So she drove an S10 pickup, and it had chalk tally marks all over the cab, all over the inside of the cab, where she's like, yeah, when you see these things, you're supposed to keep tally marks. And it's a Doctor Who thing. You wouldn't get it. And so then I told her about how I could never watch the show because there's episodes that are missing. And she's like, well, if you started with like the 2005 series and just picked up there, you should be okay. I'm just like, there's like 7 doctors before that. Are you serious? What do you mean I could just pick up in 2005? You can't do that. My pink eye.
Yes. What? Now,
Like,
how long have you had been?
It's like weeping.
Yeah, because you can't watch Doctor Who.
Because I can't watch Doctor Who. I feel like the Bond villain. But like the villainy is that I can't appreciate Doctor Who. No, Dr. Bond, Mr. Bond. No, I get this problem where I get really bad eye boogers,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll go to rub them and I'll inadvertently scratch my eye and not realize it.
Oh.
And then I think something's in my eye, so then I irritate it even worse, and so then it looks like I have pink eye. I do not have pink eye. I swear I don't have pink eye. Unless Ash farted on my pillow. She might have. I don't know.
Is that really the only way you can get pink eye? Is some kind of contact with fecal matter or dust? Or,
now, and then the only reason I know I might know this is because it's on an Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode.
Okay.
Is from raw chicken and burning styrofoam, according to that episode. Like,
seems like a reliable source.
Let me do it. Hang on. Let me what is it called? Get conjunctivitis, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Is
Yeah.
that what it's really called? Can you get
Check that too. Learning from the internet.
from
Your eyes do look a little different. You got like a Forrest Whitaker thing going.
Oh man. Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not that. I love that guy. Fucking, he's in Bloodsport. Good Morning Vietnam, Color of Money, all kinds of things, and now he's everywhere as well. But Forrest Whitaker,
He's fucking Ninja Dog or
Ghost Dog.
Ghost Dog. One of the box arts that's burned into my brain. I made fun of so many people for renting. This is prior to me knowing about Jim Jarmusch and Dead Man and like all that stuff. I made fun of so many people for running Ghost Dog. And then I watched Ghost Dog and was like, this is a great fucking movie. Oh, it's so good.
What'd you find about the Pinkeye?
It does not look like it.
Oh. It does. Wait, what?
It doesn't look like that you can get it from
any other way.
Let me just do that. How can you get Pinkeye? I don't have Pinkeye. I'm just gonna say it. It's not shit bullshit in my eye. That is bullshit on my eye. That is not bullshit in my eye. I scratched my eye. Let's see here. Pinkeye, infection caused by bacteria, viruses or bacteria, which is not in my eye. Let's see here. Viral Pinkeye. Jesus, how hard is this? One of the questions in the Google People Ask page, how do you get pink eye fart? What?
Fart?
The myth that farting on pillows can cause pink eye is not true. Most pink eye can be a result of poor hygiene. That also is not true.
That's also true.
That's also true. I'm wearing Kyle Gass sweats right now.
You are?
Red fucking sweats, man.
Oh my God. Yo, yes.
Red sweats.
That's magnificent. You got to tell me when you're going to do that. I have that pair of red sweats still, and I do wear them consistently.
Yeah. I
public
just bought these. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to buy red sweats. I need a new sweats like a month ago. And then Wally World, because their sweats are less than $5. Jesus.
I need to get one of the reasons I still wear and have those red sweatpants is because they're like literally the old fashioned. They don't really have any styling to them, which is somehow more comfortable to me than a lot of the.
And I used to hate these sweats because of the elastic at the ankles. That's That to me is what makes them look like little kid sweats. Is that
exactly?
They have the elastic at the ankles. But these, I was really excited, and so I got a gray pair, a dark gray pair, and a black pair. And then I go for the red pair, and Ash is like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's happening." So,
that's great.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
I was looking for Forrest Whitaker quotes from Rogue One, so I could do.
I know when you were looking for that's when I see it the most when you were looking up stuff for the internet. So I was gonna look something up and like, can you just say X?
Come, my child. Come.
Not bad.
Come.
Oh.
Come, my child.
Now from Bloodsport, can you just say you want to shit Sparks?
That's not it.
I didn't know what it. So he threatens. He threatens
long enough.
Jackson with a stun gun, and he says, "You want to shit Sparks? You just stay. Unless you want to shit Sparks, you just stay put."
All right.
And when I was a kid, I had no idea because he says it quickly, and I always thought he's like, "You want to shit fuck?"
You want to shit fuck?
I don't know. I was the kid. Oh man.
Which that's another line from another. So this is one. Here's a stretch to the. I think this is late '80s, maybe early '90s. Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer. You ever see that movie?
Oh, I only have a vague notion what it is, but I've always been curious about it.
There are bad. Oh, okay. So Rutger Hauer. It's a total Rambo, like kind of take on Rambo almost, where he's like a veteran who is like coming into this town that's under control of some redneck, and he happens to be blind. And he has like a staff with him, like a walking stick.
Yeah.
And he knows kung fu. Like Rutger Hauer does kung fu, and like cleans up this town as a blind man. And he has a sword hidden inside that walking stick, so it just looks like a normal stick, but it's this awesome sword too, called Blind Fury. But I'm pretty sure it's Blind Fury. In that movie, there are 2 henchmen in this elevator, and he shuts the elevator down and traps them inside of it. And so the camera shot is looking down, or I'm sorry, looking up from the floor. And the 2 henchmen are like on either side of the frame, and you can see the grid work of the roof of the elevator. Am I painting a picture here?
Yeah, pretty good, actually.
All right. So that's the frame, and there's these 2 henchmen there, and they're the normal, stereotypical, like action movie henchmen, like idiots, right? Like, you know. And the first one goes, like all the electricity, the elevator stops, and it goes dark, you know, a little bit, and it's like this guy's like, we stopped, and the other guy's like, shit, and then this henchman's like, fuck. And they look at each other, and they both at the same time go, shit, fuck.
That's magic. You just sold me on that movie.
Yeah.
I'll look off the air, but I gotta find that now.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of movies from that time, action movies too, because there's a real uptick in like Blu-rays from special features and stuff from that time. Actually, before I tell you more about that, let's crack a beer.
Oh yeah. What do you got?
In honor of our observance of, I don't know, of St. Patrick's Day coming up, I got some Guinness.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to drink that.
I have
got there.
I'm pretty sure this is a flat. This is going to be flat. That's why I'm drinking it. I bought it last weekend, and it expecting to party more than I was going to, than I actually ended up partying. So I only drank like 1 beer out of it, but it's a really good beer. It's Sweet Baby Java. So have you ever had Sweet Baby Jesus before?
No, both great names though.
Yeah. So Sweet Baby Jesus is a peanut butter chocolate porter.
Whoa, that seems like a good idea.
Sweet Baby Java is that beer then steeped with espresso beans.
Ooh,
and so that's what's in here is Sweet Baby Java. And it so there's this bar in Dayton called DK Effect. Shout out to DK Effect. That when you get a beer, they give you a tray of tokens, and the bar is full of arcade games. And so you can drink beer and play arcade games, and then they have it almost down to a science where like you have for an average player, you have barely enough tokens. I had barely enough tokens to get through my beer. But somebody who just is going to burn through, they would like still have a third of a beer left and out of tokens. And then you're like, oh, I need more tokens because I want to play. So you're going to pile through. You're just going to pound beer. Like you're just going to be like, let's finish this one so I get another token, you know, another thing token. And so, and of course the margin's better on the beer probably even than the arcade games. So I had this beer there the first time I went, and it was awesome. They had it on draft. And so I went back the next week and got a growler of it. And now that's what I'm finishing off. So I'm going to try to crack this, and hopefully a sound will come out of it, but we'll see. So,
okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
On 3 and 3. Oh, I got a little something there.
Yeah, you did.
Oh man, it smells awesome.
That's what she said.
Hey-o. That does not smell awesome right now, by the way. Hey-o. Also, hey-o.
Wait, you're talking about your beer doesn't smell awesome, or your balls?
my balls.
Oh yeah.
When do balls smell awesome though? Like
I mean, best case scenario, immediately out of the shower, but probably not.
But that is
so. I'll just hold it up while I talk till it settles. Let's talk more about balls.
Man, how inconvenient are they, right? Let's take the most sensitive part of your body and just dangle it out in a useless bag of skin.
Oh, when I saw that comedian Michelle Wolf, she had a funny bit about balls, and there's something like a useless bag of skin as a punchline.
Really?
All right, I'm gonna have one of this. Oh, sorry, I'm just holding that up forever. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Oh,
that's good, delicious.
oh, then there's still bubbles. Yes, that's awesome.
Guinness was my very first beer I ever drank, so to me it was what beer was supposed to taste like.
I think there's whole countries that would agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, I like other kinds of beer and stuff too. I was just thinking about it as I was unloading these into the fridge the other night, and I was like, "Oh yeah, my first beer, my first Guinness. I was turning 21. This is so," and I started to laugh to myself because I'm like, "This is so stupid." My first beer, first Guinness, 21. It was at Bennigan's in Fairlawn.
Oh, shit.
With Jacko and some other people. It's just like so ridiculously. I that's what I thought to do. Like it wasn't in like some cool bar or anything like that. It was like a chain Irish, quote Irish unquote restaurant. And I was like, what sounds like a cool beer to have, and that's what I had. So
does Bennigan's even exist anymore?
I don't know. I feel like no. I haven't seen one in ages. But yeah,
that's outrageous. That's so awesome. I might have been there that night. That's
very probable. Yeah,
that scenario all sounds. What year would that have been?
Math. Oh wait, so it would be 2000. The year 2000, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm
right?
sure I would have been there then.
Let me double check that.
That would have for sure been.
Yeah, we were all around that area still. 2000. It's 1979. 21. Yeah, 2000.
Yeah.
So many sad things about that.
That's so awesome. Oh man.
I fuck up my age a lot. I was born in 1979, but it's like July, so. And then I would round, I don't know. And then one year I forgot and I skipped a whole year, or I didn't skip a year. That is a problem. So,
are you really? That is epic. You want me to teach you a trick?
Yes.
This is a math teacher.
Yeah.
Don't think of 79. Think of 80.
Yeah.
Like always do the math from 80 and take one away, because that's I was born in 80, so I always get to just. I take the year that we're in right now and add 20 to it, and that's my age.
Yeah. Okay. That should help. I was just, when you're like, take one away, I thought of that Tenacious D thing. We're like, take the chicken nuggets and throw one away. Or I think it was, it was the same inflection.
You wouldn't take one away. You'd add it. Shit, I am fucked up. No, you'd add it.
Oh, this is how I get into trouble.
Because you want to get one. Because you want to get one older. Because you're going to turn 39 this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oof.
Shit. And I'm going to turn 38 this year. Fuck. I feel like I'm 50 and I had a midlife crisis 8 months ago. That's what I feel like.
Crises can happen at any time.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
I'm 50, I think. No, I don't know. I feel fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. No, actually, I just did a biometric screening for work.
Oh yeah.
All the
one of those right by me too.
Yeah.
I did mine in November, and I have yet to really look at it.
I own, like, I know all the obvious ones. I'm obese. Shocker. My blood pressure was high. That was the first time that's happened. So that was kind of scary.
Oh, yeah. You don't want that.
But everything else, my cholesterol, my glucose, I did a fasting one, blood work, and my glucose was all good. So shit. That's all. I mean, I guess that's proof that I'm not like 50, right? I still have good numbers. I just need, like, it's just a sign that I need to keep
sounds
doing
like
what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine now. I know my cholesterol's high. I think my blood pressure is relatively okay, but it's always a little higher when I'm getting it checked. So sometimes they'll check it twice and it'll be lower the second time.
Yeah.
I call it white coat syndrome.
Yep.
You get nervous. But yeah, my cholesterol is not great. I have set this out so that I could check it against the screening I had the year before, because I spent a year trying to do better, and I have yet to. So I'm gonna put that right here in front of me, next to the note to myself that I wrote during a recent episode, which simply says, "Dude, stop drinking when you stop podcasting." in the hopes that I will follow both of those advice. And it's all right next to this Jack Burton action figure.
Yes.
I had it in the box, but it fell out. Yeah. What the hell? All right.
Yeah, they want you to keep shit in a box so that it maintains its valuability. Do you know how much you have to baby that glue to keep it from breaking? Like,
yeah, that's it. Well, sort of. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Someone gave me 3 figures from Big Trouble in Little China in this it's called Reaction line of figures, and it's all kinds of pop culture-y stuff. The Reaction logo looks a little bit, I think, like Kenner. Maybe it looks like something that I recognize from my childhood, but these little toys did not exist then. And I mean, there's like Pulp Fiction ones. There's all kinds of things. I think they sell them at Barnes and Nobles. And at this state, I mean, like as a kid, I always played with everything until it fell apart, and I even had like a bunch of different Lukes and stuff.
Right.
So, but as an adult, like I was not going to play Big Trouble in Little China, so I did not take them out of the packaging, and I just kind of put them up in this ledge. And one day I came home, and the Jack Burton one had fallen down, and it was just like he was just like on the floor with it. It come completely out.
Oh no, my resale integrity!
I know, but of course I had no intention of getting rid of that stuff. So
I know.
I put the gun in his hand and the little knife. It's kind of hilarious.
So you just said I didn't, like, I'm a grown man. I'm not going to play with like Big Trouble in Little China action figures. You're like, look, he's got his knife and his gun. Like, gravity pulled him out of that package. Now I'm going to play with it.
Yeah, I'm holding it now. So
yeah. Ha!
So he's looking around. And then he puts his arms down.
Who's that? Is the phone inspector that he plays, or whoever, when he comes in? He's like, yeah. I love that.
What is that character? What did he? Oh, I can't remember what he says his name is. I'm looking for a girl with green eyes. Price is no object.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I mean, it's nothing new for this podcast, but I've been I've been watching movies from that time period, but a little bit more often recently. So that's the same company I give a shout out to that's like from Germany. I got some of their movies. A couple from this guy called Olivier Gruner, Angel Town and Nemesis. Do you remember any of those from working at video stores? Maybe Nemesis you would have heard of or seen the box art for. There was a bunch of sequels.
Let me type some of these in.
I'm not saying these are good, mind you.
No.
He was a French kickboxing champion that when Jean-Claude Van Damme hit, there was all these like new Van Dammes, and he was one of them.
Yeah, I remember this box art. Yes. And Nemesis 3. Yep.
Yeah, actually, Nemesis 2 stars Angelina Jolie.
Really?
It was late 80s, early 90s. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Not Nemesis. Cyborg 2.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Cyborg 2 is like Jack Palance and what the fuck? And Angelina Jolie.
Jack Palance.
I'm like,
yeah, look at her.
That's right.
Holy shit. Yeah, that is right.
Does it say what year it is where you're looking at?
I'm just on Google Images because I want to see the box art.
Oh, yeah. I feel like Elias Koteas might be in it. the guy that looked like De Niro from The Prophecy and among other things.
Or
Casey
to the
Jones.
Glass Shadow, or just Glass Shadow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jack Palance,
Names.
Billy Drago,
Billy Drago.
Elias Koteas.
Yes. Yeah, he's the cop in The Prophecy.
Oh yeah.
He looks like a young De Niro, or he did when he was younger.
No, there was no second war in heaven.
Oh.
Patrick O'Neal, man.
Oh, so but yeah, so I was thinking about, I came across those movies, and that company primarily made special edition stuff in Germany, like the Cyborg Director's Cut, etc. Most of their movies star Jean-Claude Van Damme, and a couple of them Olivier Gruner. So, and I'm like, I could hear commentary about Angel Heart or Nemesis, and so I'm like, eventually I got them, and so I was watching that, and when I was finding a lot of these things, there was a bunch of stuff like in the works that had not yet been released, including like the Cyborg Shout Factory, which I think comes out in April now. It was supposed to come out last year, but it kept getting delayed. But anyway, so there's this company called MVD. I'm not sure what it stands for, but they have this Rewind collection. And one of their first releases is Black Eagle, one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's first couple of movies. He co-stars with Sho Kosugi. And look at the art for this. They did kind of like that Stranger Things vibe, where they have like video stickers, like Be Kind, Rewind.
Got it. So it looks like a rental.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, just the slipcover.
Yeah.
And then it's got like all kinds of extras about the movie and stuff. So
That's
I've been
all.
down that rabbit hole.
I am so for that kind of pandering. That like is just
I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like you say, it's like people somewhere are like, what did this guy buy? And it's there must be enough of me around for there to be an uptick in this kind of thing.
Listen, recently in the last couple weeks, I really feel like there is somebody calling the shots in popular culture listening to this show. Like,
say more about that.
Well, so they announced the Joker. They're going to do a Joker Origins movie.
Yeah.
Which is potentially the start of them rebooting the DC cinematic universe. Which
really? Did they say that?
I don't know. Like I don't know. I might. I'm sure it's a simple Google search to answer that question, but
I would like that. Obviously, if they do, they should take your advice from, I think, episode 3 of this show, which is
well, that's what I think. And that's what. So, if they did what the Marvel Cinematic Universe did, where they tied all of the characters together in each of their movies, like they referenced each other in each of their movies, and all culminated into one movie where all of them were together. This is all a result of Suicide Squad and how that movie was just like plagued with reshoots because Batman versus Superman fucked everything, like fucked Rogue One. I had a conversation with Steiner about how that screwed Rogue One, where they went and reshot it to make it quote unquote like less dark because Batman versus Superman was so dark. And then Suicide Squad was the same thing. And I was upset because it's like, that's all the worst villains in the DC universe. Like that should be dark. What they just totally missed the point on was that Superman shouldn't be dark. Superman shouldn't break people's necks. You know what I mean? Like he's Superman. That's why Batman exists, is for that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Which they made Batman even darker than Batman should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Batman's not supposed to kill people.
Yeah.
Shoot guns, all this shit.
And so because they missed the mark on that scared Disney. And because I remember the buzz at the time for Rogue One was like, this is a dark Star Wars movie. Like, don't expect to feel good after this movie's done, you know? And then Batman versus Superman happened. And then, oh, they're going back. The Disney execs are worried it's too dark, so they're doing reshoots. And then Suicide Squad, the same thing happened. They were worried it was too dark, so they're going to go back and do reshoots. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, they just fucked that movie. Luckily, Rogue One, in my opinion, not in Steiner's opinion, in my opinion, they were able to still come up with a pretty decent movie. Suicide Squad, though, just really felt convoluted. It just really didn't feel like it went anywhere and wasn't executed well. And I feel that was because they gutted it. So if they did what Marvel did, but do it from
they also started in reverse in a way, because like Marvel started by doing individual movies for people.
Yes.
Once they'd established them, and you had like 2 hours of backstory, so called, you could pay off with something like that in the Avengers,
where it was just like all action in the Avengers and no because you care about these people from their own movies that they were already in. You can have 2 hours of just gods fighting each other essentially without people getting bored of it because they're invested from the other movies that you've created. The ones where you get to watch Pepper Potts and Tony Stark like build their relationship over the course of 3 movies, you know? So then in Avengers, when Tony Stark almost dies, like that's a big deal, you know, like they didn't spend any exposition on making you care about Tony Stark in the Avengers because they already had 3 movies to pay that off, you know?
Yeah. They built it from the ground up instead of like trying to start with the roof.
Yeah. And so do that, but do it from the villain's perspective. And totally do it from the villain's perspective. Like, hopefully, there's rumors that the guy that they got to play the Joker, it's confirmed that he's going to be a failed 80s comic, like stand-up comic.
Yes,
which a lot of people,
Killing Joke.
Which that's what a lot of people assume is that they're going to probably borrow heavily from the Killing Joke for this. That is, I mean, it's just so smart to do it that way, and you're going to get people who really, if he can do a good Joker and really get you to care about the Joker, then when you hear the Joker's in a movie with like the Joker and like 7 other somewhat decent villains, you're going to be like, yeah, but tell it from his perspective, where like, I want you to really, if you're familiar with the Killing Joke, I don't want to, I guess spoiler for a 30-year-old comic.
Literally.
Yeah. He's a failed stand-up comic who has a wife and a son, and he, to try to make ends meet, decides to commit a crime under the guise of this urban, like Gotham urban legend, the Red Hood, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's just supposed to wear the red hood. That's it. That's what he thinks. But in all reality, he's there to be a decoy and ends up getting knocked into a vat of chemicals, which creates the Joker. And his wife dies. Like all that stuff. Like all of those things culminate all at once. And the argument is that every man has a breaking point, and the Joker's trying to break Commissioner Gordon, and to prove to Batman, because Batman holds Commissioner Gordon up on this pedestal to prove that every man can break. And he's doing that through reliving his story of how he broke, essentially. If you can pull that story off and get you to care about the Joker, imagine how much power they're going to have in the next movie they put the Joker in, And
are they not? It's not Jared Leto. Is that confirmed?
It's not Jared Leto. That is kind of a disappointment. But everybody said his Joker was too weird. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. Nothing's going to ever top Heath Ledger. I just that Joker is.
When you can't do it like that, I think is the main thing.
Yeah,
because all of the Jokers that we've had that have been especially effective are super unique, and every time it would come up that there would be a new Joker, the general sentiment was it could never be as good as Jack Nicholson, or even once upon a time Cesar Romero or whatever. Mark Hamill, of course, does one of the very best Jokers for a lot of people. myself included. And yeah, well, and I feel like I said a lot of this on number 3, but just in case, our episode number 3. But if you haven't, if you're familiar with The Killing Joke and haven't seen The Killing Joke animated movie, it's worth seeing, if only to hear Mark Hamill do that storyline, and Kevin Conroy as Batman, kind of the iconic animated Batman. It wasn't as satisfying as I'd hoped that movie would be, but maybe this live action one or one that references that storyline will be better. I'm not very optimistic. I'm so sorry to say.
Yeah,
I just don't trust them much.
I don't either. I don't. Well, it's just sad. They have such good. Comic wise, always associated more to the DC side of comics. The Marvel comics always felt like bubblegum to me. Whereas like the DC comics, they were okay with going against the quote unquote comic code, you know, like they were okay with having anti-heroes before it was a thing. And
what's funny is I think it's like when you and I would have been of age to come to comics, I think DC was taking that cue from what Marvel had been.
Yeah.
and maybe for a while Marvel wasn't while DC was doing it. Yeah, I've always considered myself the same. The bride didn't, well, I don't know. I can't speak too much for her childhood, but most of her affection for those types of things or characters come from, the last so many years, and she's forever just making fun of me that DC sucks. I'm just like, I know it sucks. Or I used to try to defend it, but then I was like, I still haven't even seen Justice League, nor do I even want to.
No.
I had to just give up at a certain point lately with that. Maybe that's not the way to think about it, but I don't like that. I don't know. What DC does have is a pretty cool like television universe. And I haven't seen a lot of it, but I've heard great things, and I have watched at least one season of The Flash, which is it's interesting because it does take that tone a little bit that a lot of like DC stuff would have had that was a little bit more lighthearted, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty effective. So one of the things that I don't like then about the cinematic universe is that when they made the Justice League movie, like they willfully chose like to not make their television universe a part of the same thing. Like they got a new actor to play the Flash, and now to hear that they're doing that with the Joker after 2 years after having made Suicide Squad in which the Joker was like the main thing. I was like, what are you all doing?
Jared Leto was really upset because they cut a lot of his story out of Suicide Squad.
Heard there was enough to like have a Joker movie from what was cut out.
Yeah. And it's like, I want to see that movie. Why can't I see that movie? And see that, just do a direct to video of that, like
something, or put that in the DVD or Blu-ray or stuff.
I do not like the fact that they kind of scoffed at their television universe by not bringing like their Flash character, the guy that plays the Flash, onto the movie. And I don't understand that kind of thinking, man. It just is crazy. So
it has to be rooted in business somewhere, but that's, I think, where they're like fucking it up. And I could understand too, like if something isn't working, they try to change it, but I just feel like they're just being super reactionary and then ultimately not very effective.
They're just making poor decisions. Like they're just making about the mustache fiasco that happened around that movie or whatever?
No, what? There's a mustache fiasco?
There's I don't know. Oh man, I was really hoping you would have heard of this. Something with Henry Cavill. They had to bring him back for reshoots.
Oh, okay. And like Superman has a mustache. I've vaguely heard of this.
Mustache. I'm just trying to get the story.
Like just a mustache?
Henry Cavill's mustache was digitally removed in Justice League. So, and it's laughably bad. So they did not do it is laughably bad. Oh, it looks terrible. Hang on.
I got to see it.
Yeah. So, God, I'm so glad I didn't see this movie. All right, so click that link. This is the Google image page for it. Click that second link there. So it's the second picture. That's what it looks like.
No, it does not.
Yes,
that's
what it looks like in the movie.
Be.
That's what it looks like in the movie.
That's absurd.
So you see how they're like he has a butt chin on the end of his nose?
Yeah. I guess he kind of has that in real life, but that does not look all right. That looks weird. It looks like
So what had happened was he was shooting another movie, and his character in that movie had facial hair, and Warner Brothers was going to have to pay some exorbitant amount of money if they made him shave his face, because it would have delayed their shooting of the other movie, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, they decided it was cheaper to just CGI it off. So he came back, shot all his reshoots with the facial hair, and then they CG'd it off his face.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, that's just stupid fucking decisions, right? Like,
I mean, I guess what are you going to do? But it seems like
you've already wasted enough goddamn money on that movie. Waste however much more it takes to just let him shave.
Or some, yeah, that's true. Yeah. God, what the fuck? I was clicking through if you click on that image, like, I don't know, in a new window, there's a few down the line. There's one in particular that looks much better. I wonder if that's like the Blu-ray or what, but it's the same frame. I don't know, man.
That one does look better. That probably is the Blu-ray. You're right. But even that, though, it still looks puffy. It still looks like he has something.
That still looks a little off, yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like somebody CG'd his upper lip.
Yeah, they're just, it's like they're not, I don't know. It bums me out.
So
I just would like, so this Joker movie could be a chance to turn it around. There's a director attached, right? Or no? I can't remember. I feel like I've heard that. It's even someone notable.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll look up this one. Joker movie.
Yeah, I don't, I just saw a blurb about, I'm like you, like at some point you just have to be like, yep, DC sucks, you know?
I know the movies have been bad. They have not been good. I didn't find it initially. Todd Phillips.
Yeah.
He's the director of The Hangover, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting
it is.
choice.
He also puts himself in all of his movies.
Does he? Oh.
Yeah, he's so he's in, have you seen Old School? Is it Old School, I think?
I have seen Old School, just not for a while.
Yeah. Well, you know how like he comes home early and you find like the Wilson brother that's in that comes home early and finds his wife is hosting an orgy at like unbeknownst to him. And the first guy that shows up, he's like, "Hi, I'm here for the orgy." Like he hears the doorbell, and he like opens the door. He's like, "Hi, I'm here for the orgy." And he's like, he's got like a little bit of a mini fro, and he looks like he's out of the 70s. That's Todd Phillips.
That's funny.
In The Hangover, he's the guy like when they go to get on the elevator, who's like, there's like the really hot girl standing in the elevator when the doors open, and all of a sudden he comes up from out of frame, from the bottom of the frame where he had been going down on her, like in the elevator. And he's like, "Oh, excuse me, guys." Like, yeah, that's Todd Phillips.
I'm just realizing that the Variety article I was looking at was dated August of 2017, but I feel like I've heard that recently, so maybe he's still attached.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. I mean,
it'd be nice if they can turn it around and maybe.
You have to remember, like we got like this is the same people that gave us like the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, you know, and.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that stuff was great.
Right. So, yeah, we'll just take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then there was the Tommy Wiseau thing you sent me, where he was.
That's the other thing that made me think that people have been listening to us because they took. So then they take Tommy Wiseau, and he does basically Tommy Wiseau as the Joker, which. With the makeup on, it actually plays as a fantastic Joker, in my opinion.
There were moments in that video that I was like, "Oh, that's like halfway good," and I figured when I first heard rumors of this, I thought for sure it was something like, because I don't know, I just started following him on Twitter and stuff like that, so I don't really have a sense of like when he's kidding about stuff or if he is kidding ever. He's such a weird guy. But I figured it was sort of serious. But then when I saw that video, I'm like, this is obviously just an advertisement for the new movie he has with Greg Sestero, the My Best Friend or whatever.
Right.
That's what I think anyway. It seemed like kind of a way to get press for that. Because at some point, Sestero comes on and he pretends to be Batman.
Yep.
And it's like, if he were really going to audition for this, especially with the help of some other people and get it placed in like Entertainment Weekly and stuff, he would probably not literally just ape the performance of Heath Ledger.
No.
But so serious or not, though, is pretty funny to watch him say some of those lines.
I mean, when you think in the room, he basically was lifting.
Oh yeah, the one line from Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause, right? Like he was obsessed with James Dean. So
that'd be fun too if he's serious. Either way, it was an amusing video.
I'm sure he was not. I mean, I have to assume now that a man that was smart enough to take the lemons of lemons and turn it into what he's turned it into, there's a level. I mean, there is a large level, I would think, of intelligence there. Like to try to just roll with that and like turn that around. You know, like there's of course a large amount of naivete, like the fact that the billboard stayed up for like 5 years, but
yeah.
But there's also genius in that like stayed up for 5 years and like moved from Oscar hopes to these midnight showings are still happening of my movie because it's like that's helping gain traction, you know? So I want to think that there's
that Joker movie. That would get me there. At
but
least.
I also want to think that there's a sense of humor in like I'm assuming all of this is for fun. Like this is him just having a good time, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. I am excited to see that new movie. I don't know when it'll come out more widely, but the one
My Best Friend.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on a recent episode.
Yeah, I'm just excited. Well, I have not watched The Room yet, or seen The Disaster Artist.
Oh
or
yeah,
listened to the book.
The book. So, it's weird between all the three of those things. It's the order I did it, so I don't know. But I also heard it otherwise recommended. So the book, The Disaster Artist, which I listened to. And you could listen to as listeners a long walk, short drink.
If you go to audibletrial.com/LWSD, you can get your free audiobook token with your first month's free subscription. So
that's right, yeah. And you can you could use this book, The Disaster Artist, by Greg Sestero and read by Greg Sestero, who is part of the production team and making The Room. He's in The Room and he's Tommy Wiseau's best friend. And so I listened to that first, and then I saw The Room, and then I saw The Disaster Artist, and so that was kind of perfect for me. But I'm imagining any combination of those things would be also satisfying. The Disaster Artist has got to be coming out soon.
Yeah,
on home video.
And I think all of that stuff, if you want, Ash and I just moved into the 21st century and realized that we could rent all the Oscar movies on Amazon Prime. So we watched Lady Bird this past weekend. So I'm sure The Disaster Artist is on there.
Oh yeah, let's see. It is listed on Amazon in stock. Oh, can you get this now? I want this. I want there to be extra stuff on it. Is there extra stuff on it? I'm not seeing any. Huh. That would suck. Anyway.
There's one downside to digitally renting stuff. Is it's super convenient and a little bit, and cheap, but you don't get any bonus features. You just get the movie.
Oh shit, there is extra stuff. There's a gag reel, thank God. Yeah. Laugh out loud audio commentary with director, actor James Franco, actor Dave Franco, actor Tommy Wiseau, actor Greg Sestero, and more.
Wow.
Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah. Oh, hi, Mark. Making a disaster feature, directing a disaster feature, just a guy leaning on a wall, getting to know Tommy featurette. Oh my God, yes. This is out now?
Yeah, I'm
I'm going to
surprised.
order
I'm
it
surprised you haven't ordered it
immediately.
already.
Oh, you know what? It came out yesterday. Yes. This is so exciting. I can't wait.
I saw. I think Thor Ragnarok came out recently too. Maybe yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen that yet?
Oh yeah, that movie's fantastic.
Yeah, that's so fun.
It's like incredibly entertaining. Super fun. So we watched Lady Bird at home this past weekend, but we also went and saw Black Panther in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Like
Two wildly different movies.
Yeah. Another like thoroughly entertaining comic book movie. Just super good. The guy from Get Out was amazing in it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot he was in it.
Yeah, super good. So, hey, and we're up to 3 viewers. Thanks for watching.
Oh, cool. Hello.
We stayed at 0 for like the longest time, and then it was like in the last 10 minutes we popped up to 3. So,
the magic hour of 8:00 Central, 9:00.
I got to think too, like because we were getting pretty good about having regular like 3 to 5 viewers during our live streams, and to the point that I noticed that we had gone so long without anybody watching. And I'm like, oh, that's weird that we didn't. And I realized that we didn't let people know that we changed our recording day to the.
Oh, we kind of switched weeks.
Yeah. So for those of you for when you hear this, and for those of you watching live, we are now recording the same weeks that episodes launch to give Dave an extra week of time to get the edits done. So, how's that working out? Is that working out okay? I guess this will be the first one, right?
Yeah, I think, this will be, but I have to imagine that'll be good.
Yeah. So,
but welcome to our live audience.
Absolutely.
I was mid thought for something surely ridiculous and unimportant, so I'm gonna pour another Guinness.
Oh, I thought no. Now we're that because I know why Thor Ragnarok was stuck in my head. Because, so I'm still working on, this is so terrible. I'm working on catching up on our show, right?
Oh, yes.
And I'm almost caught up. The Oscar episode is next. And then we have our WP Elmering anniversary, and then we'll be caught up, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm almost caught up, but that means one of the last episodes that I finished was the best of 2017, and boy, was one of your movies that the
movie Boy,
yeah.
Yeah.
That the director of that is the guy who directed Thor Ragnarok.
Exactly.
And we didn't piece that together. I don't know, like in that conversation, I don't know if we even mentioned that, but in addition to all of those other great movies that we've talked about, he also directed Thor Ragnarok, which is just one of my favorite Marvel movies in this current Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, I was hearing I wish I could remember who it was talking about it. I feel maybe like it might be Chris Hardwick on Nerdist podcast, which just recently changed to ID10T, the ID10T podcast. But I think he was saying he felt, because he talks to a lot of people in those movies and that make them, and how he was talking about it was that he thinks that they're so good because what they seem to be doing is hiring directors or writers and allowing them to make their, like, really tell a story that they want to tell. They just happen to be using the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you get a movie like, it makes sense. Like if you watch Thor Ragnarok and Boy and some of the movies that Pumps that I should know and haven't watched by that same director, you can tell that comes from that guy. Like it, because I didn't know anything about Thor Ragnarok other than the preview looked kind of silly to me.
Right.
But the movie had such an interesting and different tone than any of the other Marvel movies and was so funny. And then between that and then seeing, Black Panther follow it, I want to say it's Ryan Coogler, I think is the director of that. He's the director also of like Creed and Fruitvale Station. I think this is right. He made a movie that had really like resonant sort of socio-political undercurrents that were really satisfying. And again, it was like, is this real story coming from someone with a point of view and sort of an established and proven point of view in other, movies. And then they kind of let that person do their thing with like they give them the keys to the car that is, I can't think of a famous Marvel car, but it's like the Batmobile. But it's what it would be nice for them to do with the DC universe, I guess, is because that you get kind of this best of both worlds. Like you get this kind of personal cinema, but you also get the big popcorn movies. But also I've heard that who's the head of Marvel? I'm thinking of Jeff Johns, and I think he's over at DC. Fuck.
The head of Marvel or head of Marvel Cinematic Universe? Or...
Marvel like Studios. Kevin Feige, I think is his name. So I keep saying like I've heard. That's the best I can source, people. It's I'm just pure conjecture here and hearsay.
Oh yeah, Feige. Feige.
Yeah. So I've heard that he is the kind of like he's the buck stops with him, and like so there is a constant, and it's not just like committee. I'm sure some of that's involved, but I don't know. I think there's got to be some parts of the recipe, which are why those movies are time after time, satisfying entertainment with usually just a little bit of something extra, as opposed to being like abysmal, disappointments like the DC films have been. Ugh.
Yeah, no.
I took a positive and then ran it into a negative there,
no.
but
I think
kudos to Marvel, I should say.
No, but I think that's what, and I wonder if Disney is really good about. See, you're talking about Marvel, and now I'm going to spin it into Disney.
Yeah, I mean that's true. They are in bed together.
So Disney is really good about letting their small arms kind of run themselves, but then cherry picking the best pieces of those arms and then pulling them into the larger umbrella and then spreading them out to other arms, right?
Yeah.
You can see that now. So this is all my theory and my opinion. So we'll take it all with a grain of salt, I guess. But my evidence for that is, which one of our viewers is Moto, by the way, who wanted to point out on top of the 10th anniversary of WPLMR, I don't think it can be stressed enough that in that episode that we showcased in episode 42, it was also the 10th anniversary of your first album. So,
oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, because he says on the chat there that he was working on some Dog Days remasters.
Oh, yeah. For anyone who I did share the podcast again with my music mailing list, such as it still exists. And I think most of the people on there came aboard during that time. And I've been wading through a lot of like, looking for diamonds in the rough, but it's best I can hope for, I think, is rubies. I was telling Moto recently, but there's a lot of like not so great things as I'm looking at the reality of say performances. I'm listening to all these performances like on cassettes from like 2006 and 7.
Shit.
But I keep coming up with these new ideas of things that I can include in this like expansive sort of, close the book on definitive. I'm calling it a definitive digital edition, but there are going to be physical components, most of which are going to be leftover actual sort of artifacts from the time, but a lot of like handmade things. So I don't want to get too much into it, obviously, because it doesn't exist yet. But the one I thought of that I'm probably most excited about at the moment is I do this like bootleg series, and I'm going to do an installment of that's like 2006 through 7 or maybe 8 Cafe Day. So it's all cafe shows when I was first starting and playing songs from this time. I'm going to cherry pick the performances and stuff so I can kind of make the best possible show that never was. Like, I'm not going to try to pass it off as one show. It'll be a composite. But I'm going to then... So it'll exist digitally, but I'm also going to put it back onto the same type of audio cassettes, like Maxell cassettes that I used to record it on from my PA. and have that be part of the physical component that you get with the big, like, I would call it a box set. It'll come in a box, but not like, I'm not going to get it professionally, like,
Right.
it would cost so much money. Anyway.
Right.
So yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm living in the land of Dog Days and Black Eagle right now.
That's so awesome.
2008, Moto. So thank you, Moto, for working on that. This was something I meant to share with you when you sent me a text about that recently, because this came in the mail.
Oh.
Kickboxer Retaliation.
Shit.
This is the sequel to so they rebooted the Kickboxer franchise.
Okay.
And Van Damme is not the lead. He's like the master that trains the lead.
Oh.
It's fun. Yeah. And he wears like a little, like, kind of.
They do the goldfish scene. Isn't that a kickboxer?
Oh, where he's like underwater doing the contest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I only watched that first one once, but I feel like they might have.
I thought there was a scene in Kickboxer, maybe it's Bloodsport, where he's like in front of a koi pond and he has to like reach into the koi pond and catch.
Oh, yes, that is Bloodsport. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But like this movie they just loaded it up with guest stars. So like there's a lot of MMA type guys, I think, but also Christopher Lambert, none other than the Highlander himself, is in there.
Shit. There can only be one.
Exactly. Mike Tyson is in there.
The Highlander is another one of your like.
It is. I love some Highlander.
And not just the Highlander. You were a bigger fan, I feel like, of the Highlander television show.
Yes, yeah. The first Highlander movie is genius, spectacular.
Yeah.
Christopher Lambert's amazing. It's an original concept. The Kurgan villain, played by I'm blanking on his name, Clancy Brown, is amazing. Sean Connery is in it as like the original Highlander that sort of trains Christopher Lambert. Did I mention the soundtrack is by Queen? The first one is fucking
so
fantastic. Spectacular. Then beyond that, the movies are fucking terrible. Yeah. Oh, but the last thing about the first one, the whole thing is conceived by the guy that wrote and directed The Prophecy. It's one of his few like kind of creations, but that's one of them. So yeah, I love me some Highlander. The TV series though, starring Adrian Paul, is quite good. Okay,
so back to Marvel. Let's wrap up Marvel.
Good luck.
So back to Marvel. I finally picked up. No, like Moto's typing too. He's talking about the underwater shit. He's
yeah, with just opening a can of worms there somehow. You just said Moto, and I'm like somehow got through several JCVD properties to Highlander.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. But I feel like Disney. So Marvel. You can see how Disney looks at successful things, cherry picks those, and then brings them into the umbrella company to feed out into the other arms. I think Pixar is a great example of that, where they kind of just let Pixar do their own thing and find their own success. And they did with the vengeance. And then slowly over time, if you look at the digital animation that Disney Studios were doing alongside Pixar, like you couldn't hold a candle to it for the first like so many years. They were apples and oranges. And then slowly with a couple really good ones like Tangled, and then Wreck-It Ralph is a good example of that. Like I look at Wreck-It Ralph, that is like a Pixar movie that Disney Studio, like I feel like that was the first one where they like nailed the Pixar formula. They were able to like kind of do what Pixar did, but do it as Disney Studios. And now they've been really successful with that, at being able to kind of model that digital animation style.
Yeah.
And so this Marvel thing that grew, I don't think they had any idea when they let Jon Favreau make Iron Man. I don't think they had any idea what they were getting into. Like, I don't think they saw the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it exists now. Then I think they wanted to get there. I think they knew it could get there, but they just saw Jon Favreau, who wanted to make Iron Man, and they own this property. So yeah, go ahead, make Iron Man. And then it became a huge thing. to the point that they got so formulaic with it that they pushed Favreau out of that whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, like he got tired of doing the same thing over and over again. They didn't want to grow because they were fine tuning that formula. And so you can't go, when you're doing that, you can't go too far out of it when you're trying to make sure the formula works, right?
Right. He did the first two, is that right, or just the first one?
I don't know if he got the third. He might have quit during the third one, actually.
Because I know the third one is Shane Black, who.
Oh yes, that's right.
Who he created Lethal Weapon.
Right.
He wrote Lethal Weapon. I mean.
Right.
And
the
then he did a movie.
Definitely Jon Favreau did.
Yeah, and number 3 does feel. It feels a little bit like it does feel like Shane Black, and that's like one of those things where they're movies that. It's pretty cool that can be both.
Now you can hear that because Lucasfilm was it's George Lucas. That is the creative force that we have in Lucasfilm. He drove all of their creative force. I feel like everything, of course, I don't mean to belittle the thousands of people that work at Lucasfilm. He was like I don't know, the visionary, the Steve Jobs of Lucasfilm, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's called Lucasfilm.
It's called Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And so then when they got pulled into this Disney arm, now they've started to do this where they're like J.J. Abrams, make the Star Wars movie you would make. Rian Johnson, can you make a Star Wars movie that you would want to make that would fit in we really like what you did there. Here, just make a new trilogy, your own new trilogy. And what would you do with that? And they're like, I feel like a couple times Lucasfilm has had to reel it back in. Like the Solo movie is a great example of that, where the directors that they had, there were 2 young guys, just weren't hitting the tone of a Star Wars movie. It was too much their style and not enough Lucasfilm style. So again, they saw they were going too far out of the formula and needed to pull it back in. So they brought in Opie to toe the line and finish the movie out, Ron Howard.
Yeah.
I only said Opie because that came to mind first. I wasn't trying to be a jerk.
No, it's funny. No, it's fine.
So I see, and you can see that where that I feel like that Marvel, because they were willing to take risks early on in that Marvel Cinematic Universe, because Disney had enough money to say, let's just see what happens here. That is one good thing where I feel like that can come out of Disney owning so much in Hollywood now. Is because they have enough money. Like they could put out 15 bombs, and if they get one good, Black Panther just made up for any shitty take at the box office Disney had over the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's really smart what they're doing, and it really is changing Hollywood in some ways for the better. I mean, you got to look at, it's not just critic reviews. I think that's where I'm starting to lean, where I feel like that is one way that I can get back to just enjoying movies, is like, don't look at it. You can't deny box office grosses, right? It's really,
like that's people voting with their feet, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can't discount that. Like, who cares if it's not going to bring home a major award, or like you get on and you look at the critic reviews, and the critic reviews are really good. The user reviews are really good. And you just look at the box office, and it doesn't matter like what somebody might call that artistically as a movie. Millions of people were entertained by Black Panther. Like, Black Panther is never gonna, I don't think is gonna win any major awards, like quote unquote major awards. But millions of people have been entertained by that movie. As a director, how could you ask for anything else? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, millions of people saw my work and were entertained by it.
Yeah.
So And it's really hard to discredit that. I'm thinking now.
I feel very fortunate the way that I watch things is it just so happens to have developed outside of that idea of trying to find I look to the gatekeepers to make sure like I'm picking something that would be worthwhile of my time, because generally I've from when I was a kid watching things based on who was in it to watching things based on who made it. My interest was always kind of started there. I don't know. I mean, I guess you always want something to be good, or you want to enjoy it. So I can say that like I can enjoy things that I don't think are good.
Yeah.
And I get something I get something different out of it. But I think that probably helps me a lot, because I don't I literally don't even know the last review I looked at, just because at a certain point I didn't like that. I think we've talked about it on the show where I'd read a bad review like 20 years ago of a movie that I liked, and then suddenly the things in the review that they mentioned, I was like, oh, well, I guess that's not so good. And I was like, well, shit, I liked this a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm a better person for realizing something in that movie that didn't work so well. It's not like I'm, so it's like, I mean, yeah, it's a certain amount of blinders or ignoring something, but I don't feel like it's bad to ignore things that like hurt other people, but that only hurts me. To realize that such and such doesn't work. So anyway, I'm fortunate in that regard, and I'm probably more able to give things the benefit of the doubt. I think I am sort of cynical about some stuff. It depends. But for the most part, I'm able, thankfully, to enjoy most stuff. Like the bride and I watched Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
I had zero interest in this movie, but she'd mentioned it a couple times. And I think you and I had been texting. You and I texted that day about what movie? It was a science fiction movie. And then it came 2 science fiction movies that I'd kept her from my resistance to them. Well, the older one was Deus Ex Machina, I think.
Oh, Deus Ex Machina and Annihilation.
Annihilation, yes.
Both directed by the same guy, who is also the guy that worked with Danny Boyle he worked with him on 28 Days Later. He worked with him on 28 Weeks Later. He worked with him on Sunshine. He wrote Sunshine. And then Deus Ex Machina was his directorial debut, which I know I'm a giant nerd. I'm not denying that, obviously.
You're welcome here.
There are a couple science fiction tropes, though, that if your movie is about this, I'm just going to watch it because I love both of these ideas in science fiction. One of them
Jean-Claude Van Damme as twins?
No, one of them is time travel, which is why I constantly bring up Time Cop. And the other one is artificial intelligence, because I love the philosophy behind, like the moral implications behind artificial intelligence and what that might mean. And Ex Machina explores it's about artificial intelligence. It's this really intimate cast. So it's I don't know anybody. I should just bring it up on IMDb because I have it here, but I'll tell you the people as I'm looking it up. So the redheaded guy from the new Star Wars trilogy, the one that
the Weasley kid.
Yeah.
Him. I don't know which Weasley. Fred? No,
he's
older
not a
than
Weasley. He's an older Weasley. He's like a Bill Weasley, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah. He marries the French girl, right?
Domhnall Gleeson is his name. Yes, he does marry
the
French
let's talk
girl.
about him in this way.
Yeah. So that kid, and then the X-wing Poe, who?
Oh, sure, him.
He's in it.
Oscar Isaacson.
Oscar Isaac, just Isaac.
Isaac, sorry. Yeah. I like starting this way.
And then the woman is Alicia Vikander, you know who I'm talking about?
No,
she was in The Danish Girl, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Let me see what else she was in. I think she might have played. Did she play Sarah Connor, or did the lady from
Oh, that was Game of Thrones, right?
Game of Thrones woman played Sarah Connor. Yeah. Those are probably the ones that you would know. The Danish girl, maybe.
So I probably know her to see her, maybe.
Oh, she plays the new Laura Croft in the Tomb Raider reboot that's getting ready to come out.
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah.
I've only seen previews for that, but I don't think I have seen her in anything.
Yeah.
Not the actual movie.
Okay. So this movie takes place in the not so distant future. I'm not going to spoil this movie. I cannot spoil it because it's so fucking good. There are other people in it, but they are essentially the three main characters.
Okay.
So Oscar Isaac plays the CEO of this big tech company who brings an intern, Domhnall Gleeson, to his private estate to help with a beta test. And the beta test turns out being a Turing test for an artificial intelligence that he's developed in the form of that Alicia Vikander person.
Oh, okay.
And so the whole point is to try to see if she can pass the Turing test, which, do you know what a Turing test is?
No, I was just about to ask. Turing.
You know, the imitation game that with that came out a couple years ago with Benjamin Cumberbatch in it and Natalie Portman. Is it? No,
I know of
Keira
it, but
Knightley.
I didn't see it.
Keira Knightley and Benjamin Cumberbatch. That's how I have to say his name like that. I can't say it any other way. Cumberbatch. And he plays Turing, who is the father of modern computing. And he developed a test that if there was ever, because you find out in that movie he got into computing because he had Asperger's or he was autistic, but he was very antisocial. He did not like people. He didn't like being around people. So he wanted to invent a machine that he could talk to, like that would ultimately replicate his first love, which was a boy from when he was a teenager, because he was a homosexual. And so he wanted to invent a machine that he could have conversations with, like he had conversations with this young man that he fell in love with when he was a teenager.
Ah, I didn't know that.
And so he developed a test that it was a test that if a machine was ever if to pass this test, a machine had to fool a human being to the point that it did not know that what was giving the answers to these questions was a machine. And so they're cleverly designed questions that are worded in such a way that you need human reasoning to be able to decipher the question. So let me see if I can find an example of a Turing question.
This reminds me of the test they give in Blade Runner to see if people are replicants. I wonder if it's similar.
Let me see here. Oh, okay. So here's a good example. If the sky is the sea, what does that make birds? And the point behind that question is, can a machine extend a metaphor? Another example would be like a man was looking at a puppy through a window. It was cute. What was cute, the puppy or the window? And you know what I mean?
That one I could follow.
Yeah,
I could answer as a human.
What is the beginning of everything? What is the end of everything? A human can focus on everything as a word and give the answers E and G. Could a machine do that? So it's that type of questioning. He developed this test, and this. So back to Ex Machina. That's what the whole point of the movie is, to try to see if this AI passes that test. And it's this intimate. You don't know who. Oh man, is it good? It's fucking good. I wish Double D was on here because he would be selling this movie too.
I'm much more interested in it than I have ever been.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful.
And so then Annihilation. So Ash and I went and saw that. That was one of those movies.
Oh,
that
you did?
Yeah.
Which one? Annihilation?
Oh no, not Annihilation. Ex Machina.
Oh, okay.
So that came out in theaters, and I'm like, and I heard all the like, this guy. It's the directorial debut of this guy. He worked with Danny Boyle, and I love Danny Boyle. Right? I love everything Danny Boyle makes is fantastic. Even Train Spotting.
Even Train Spotting,
yeah.
Especially Train Spotting, or is that
no? That's one timer for me though. I can't like, but it's so good. I haven't seen the second one yet. I still need to see that.
I watched it last year. I really enjoyed it. I don't think that'll be a one timer.
Yeah,
I mean it's not upsetting in the same way, I guess.
No, like babies falling from the ceiling or anything like that, like rotting in cribs or anything.
No, okay. Not unless I mean at the worst they might flash to that or something, but I don't think they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
It took me years to forget that baby. Like, years. Like, oh God, I'm having flashbacks just thinking about.
I don't know what it says about me that it didn't trouble me as much. It was okay.
And it wasn't even the crawling scene where it's like where he's like detoxing and it's on the ceiling. It's this shot where they show it, where it just like. That whole scene, I can replay it all right now in my head because he's talking about, how he's coming down from a nod, and he said, "I don't know how long she had been screaming, just that she was screaming," and the apartment that they were in, like the mom is freaking out. And it cuts to this like really like sharp, again, looking up from the crib angle. And you see the baby's like blue and it's obviously dead. And they were all on the nod. So they're all like just coming on like in an arch around the crib, all just kind of staring at it. And while they're staring at this baby, they decide to shoot up again, like to calm the mom down. And they like will all walk out of the room. And that's when he's like, well, that's how we knew who the father of the baby was, because they show Fun Boy. Oh, yeah. Like it's like there. And then that
Sick Boy, Fun Boy's a crow.
Oh, yeah. Boy's and Crow. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm glad to have an excuse to remember that.
But then it shows that shot of him like just sobbing, looking at this baby, and like. So that whole scene just traumatized me. Every bit of that, from the moment, like the part of him like coming down, because the movie's kind of a fairy tale up to that point. Like it's not really like that's the turning point where all the bad stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
So you don't really know how. Like they're just doing drugs and like he swam in a toilet. And they shot a dog in the butt with a pellet gun, and like they stole a sex tape and. Some guy shit in a bed, so you're like, oh, okay, like whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, dead baby scene. And you're just like, and then all those bad things happen after that. Like, it's terrible.
It's sad that's somehow. I'm just reminded of the movie and want to see it now, especially after watching the second one. I definitely recommend watching the second one. And every time I think about the stuff that Danny Boyle has made, I get pretty excited. Because not to mention like all the movies. I mean, we have mentioned a bunch of movies. He made, I think in 2012, maybe a little earlier, he did a theatrical run of Frankenstein, celebrating its 200th anniversary this year. Danny Boyle.
Oh my God.
And it starred Benedict. How do you say his name?
Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. It starred him and Sick Boy, actually, Johnny Lee Miller, in alternating roles. So one night, Cumberbatch would play the creature, and Johnny Lee Miller would play the creator, and then the next night they'd switch.
That's fantastic.
And it played in England, and then it got put into theaters like as a only on occasion type thing. Maybe it was once live, I'm not sure. I mean, it was definitely like a film theater performance. So perhaps the first time it might have been live, or first 2 times, because they captured both, people playing the creature or creator. And so I saw it one time in a theater, and at the Cedar Lee Theater, actually, when I was living up there. And it was excellent. It was amazing. It was such a cool like take on the whole thing. And they refused to, so far, release it on home video. They want it to be a theatrical experience. But
I would go see that.
It was really cool.
I would go see. Like, did you get to see both versions? Did they shoot both versions?
I think they did shoot both versions, and they would have different options on different nights.
Yeah.
And it still plays. I've gotta check, because with it being the 200th anniversary of the publication of Frankenstein, there's been a lot of Frankenstein stuff. So I'm hoping they put it back. Even since I've lived here in Minnesota, it's been here local in Minnesota. It's like kind of like that Fandango type, not Fandango.
A Phantom Events.
Fathom, yeah, where it's like they'll put stuff in theaters. But so I think I feel like we saw Cumberbatch.
Benjamin Cumberbatch.
As the creature. I think it's Kevin Smith that says it, Cumberbatch. So I was thinking it that way.
I love that guy. He's got such a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like, such a good British sense of humor, I should say.
Oh, man. Have you watched Sherlock ever?
No, but I heard.
That is fucking magic. Like,
I heard it's good.
It is really great. And there's not that many of them. It's a TV series, but each episode is 90 minutes. So they're
really?
And they're pretty short series, as they call them. It's him and Martin Freeman, and it's great. I have like zero reason to like that too. I have no in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we watched it years ago, and I was just like, wow, it's so well done and fun and cool. I'll definitely recommend that. I'm sure it's on something you get. And it's the kind of thing too, you don't need to like binge watch or anything, because like I said, they're all a little bit like a standalone movie in some ways.
Sure.
So if ever you get the urge, that's definitely worthwhile.
That was like a modern retelling of the classic Sherlock tales, though, right? Or were they?
Yeah, I think so. But also, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, it feels modern, but not like super modern because of the British BBC vibe. Yeah. It's still got a kind of a classic feel to it.
But it's not like carriage
not
and horses,
stuffy.
Right? Like they're.
No, yeah, and there's cell phones and stuff.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah,
I think they're still making it. Yeah, that's definitely.
I'm telling you though, check out an Ex Machina. Like I would love to have Double D, Ash, you. That would be a good one to do an episode on. It's that impactful. Honestly,
cool.
Like. So good.
I'd be up for that.
But then he also, now his second movie he directed is this adaptation of this book called Annihilation, which has Natalie Portman in it, who looks awesome. God, I love her. I love her so much.
Raising Arizona a little bit. Yeah. You're like Ollie Hunter, like, I love her. I know so much.
I just like. She's got in that trailer, there's this shot of her where she just looks broken, and they're asking her these questions about like this thing, this organism that is slowly devouring the earth, and she's just broken from it. And God damn, I just want to hold her.
I know that impulse. Yeah, she's so wonderfully like she's all so many things. She can be so wonderfully vulnerable, but also like super badass.
Yeah,
or funny or sexy or really whatever she seems to want to be.
Well, I'm trying to. What's that movie with her that takes place in Britain where she's like super slutty in it, like sleazy?
Oh, Closer. Yeah. That's
like that movie. Like made me feel like it. Like made me feel disgusting to be a human being. She was so good in that. Like,
yeah, that's a kind of a tough movie.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're talking about her too in context of these other like the sci-fi movies that I've been keeping the bride from through my like general aversion to sci-fi. That's just like saying like if I need an end to a movie to like for some reason to go out of my way, like when you said that the guy from 28 Days Later was involved, that's like my in.
Yeah.
I mean I'll take a recommendation too, but it's just like a kind of like, you know, you don't like musicals, get you to watch a musical is a little tough.
Yes.
Even though there's probably musicals that you enjoy if you think about it hard enough. I don't know for sure, but I don't. like science fiction as a selling point. It has to be like good in spite of that for some reason for me.
I'm just surprised you do not know this guy. Alex Garland is the director.
I actually never, that name didn't register for me, but I'm interested now. And yes, so the Natalie Portman connection was when the bride and I first started dating, when she was still living in Minnesota and I was living in Ohio. There was this movie theater within. I was living in Kent in an apartment complex, and I could walk to the movies in like 5 minutes. It was closer to me than it was when I lived a few blocks from the Cedar Lee Theater. And both times I went to so few fucking movies. So stupid. But V for Vendetta was out. And I probably didn't have a strong enough desire to see it. She mentioned wanting to see it, I think maybe when she was out visiting. And we didn't. And I mean, I was just totally oblivious to the whole thing. To when maybe, I don't know how much longer, or how long into the future, like when it was on video, I watched it. I was like, oh, I saw this amazing movie I was telling her. And she's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to see that.
I think you told this story before. Like,
have I? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can do that sometimes, I guess, or be influential about the movies.
I don't even consider that a science fiction movie.
I don't think I would either.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's really.
But it's the first example I can think of a movie that she wanted to see that I evidently shut her down.
No, I totally get what you're. I mean, I think everybody does that, you know. But man, V for Vendetta, that's a great one. That
I know, and that's a potential Palmer's pick.
Yeah,
that's what made me think of it too.
That toilet paper speech that he reads, or that she reads in the cell, like, God, man. I don't remember that well enough. Oh, that's so good.
I need to see it again. I think we actually do own it.
Yeah.
So I could watch it at any time.
so this is Alex Garland. These are just some of the movies that he's written. He wrote The Beach. Well, he wrote the novel The Beach.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, Danny Boyle made that up, didn't he? Yeah.
And then he wrote 28 Days Later. He wrote Sunshine.
Was he the main writer of 28 Days Later?
Yeah, it says in his credits on,
like, sole writer even. Now I'm really in.
28 Days Later, writer Alex Garland, sole writer. Written by Alex Garland, directed by Danny Boyle. Another great one that he wrote, and I just recently found out that he essentially directed it. The Dredd reboot, the Judge Dredd reboot that came out.
Oh yeah, both you and Twinkie have talked about that positively on this.
Seen that movie? Jesus Christ, that movie is so fucking fantastic for an action guy. Like, for you loving action movies, like,
oh man, okay.
That should be what you watch. Like, you should just watch that whenever you're like the next thing you're gonna pop in or watch. That should be what you watch. Like,
whoa, okay. Even before Deus Ex Machina?
No, you should watch Ex Machina, not Deus Ex Machina.
It's Ex
Machina.
That phrase means God in the machine, right? Deus Machina.
Deus Ex Machina, it means God in the machine, yes.
So the version, the movie is really just kind of the machine in Latin. Right?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah, Dredd, but this just got released in an interview, or I saw it blurb across recently. He wrote Dredd. He was on the set for Dredd, but essentially Carl Urban confirmed that the production was so fucking crazy behind the scenes that Alex Garland basically stepped in and directed without getting credit for it. Dredd.
Whoa.
But yeah. Jeez. That's
Let exciting.
Me Go. What's the movie Never Let Me Go? Why does that sound familiar?
That doesn't ring a bell for me either.
Oh well. Anyways, like, this guy, and he's one of those guys who he reminds me of Hemingway. He does not owe you. He needs to make this stuff. He needs to write. He needs to direct. he needs to do those things to process his understanding of a topic. So he owes you no explanation. Like I've watched like where he's done panels, like Comic-Con panels, and people get up like the Ex Machina is kind of an ambiguous ending. Kind of. It's not really, though. If you really think about it, it's not. But it is left to your, some of it is left to your interpretation. And he's on this panel for Ex Machina, and like three like stereotypical Palmer-esque nerds like kind of drill him for, did you mean this when this happens? Like not even necessarily about the ending, just like about stuff like when this happens, like did you mean this? And finally he gets mad. he's like I know I'm coming off as angry right now, and that's because I am a little angry. Like I don't owe you an like, what did it mean to you? Like what? And he kind of did the thing that like Daniel does in that same, and almost in the same situation. And one of the Daniels did in an interview I watched for Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I don't care what, like if you felt something, like whatever you felt, that's what it meant, because that's what it meant to you, you know? And he's just completely unapologetic, almost combative about like, how dare you ask me to explain this? Like, you know, nice. What the fuck do I owe you? Like, did you enjoy the movie? Then just let it be that, you know, like I need to find this interview with him because he gets so pissed. Like,
I think I want to see them and like them first before he's like yelling at me about it.
Yeah. That's exactly the tone. That's kind of what, like, you walk away, some interviews with him, you walk away where you're just like, I mean, just look at his IMDb page. Look at his, it looks like a mugshot.
I'm almost
hang on. I got the link if that helps.
Oh, I was already looking. Oh, he looks like a dick. Kind of. I don't know.
He looks like a Russian hitman in his Adidas tracksuit. Like
he does. He's younger than I would have thought, or looks younger. 1970?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we don't know when that picture was from, but
so. But I mean, like, it just. I'm serious though. Ex Machina was one of those movies where Ash and I had a piece of cake. Let's go see a movie. All right, what do you want to go see? And I'm like, so here's the deal. And I laid it out. Like, this is the first movie this guy directed. It happens to be about artificial intelligence, which is one of my favorite like topics in science fiction. He's got that going for him, and he also worked with Danny Boyle on like two of my favorite Danny Boyle movies, 28 Days Later and Sunshine. She's like, what's it about? And so I kind of I showed her the trailer. She's like, yeah, we can go see that. It was one of those ones like Fight Club. Like 4 days later, she comes, and I can't even say it because it'll spoil it, and I don't want to spoil it. But she comes and she's like, can you believe that happened? And I'm just like, I know, right? And so like, that's how I knew like this guy did something. Like I don't want an explanation from him. Like it's good. It's just so good.
That's
it's
awesome.
One of this like perfect like mesh of art and entertainment. It is a great and thought-provoking art and entertainment.
Well, I'm given a day off on Friday, like just because.
Yeah.
And the bride and I have been trying to decide what to do. So I don't know. This is in the running because I know she's interested in this movie. I know she was interested in Annihilation because I've shut her down on both. You should do an
Alex Garland trilogy. You should do Dread, Ex Machina, and then go see Annihilation. And I'll convince Ash that we should go see Annihilation this weekend.
I'll see what I can do. We never seem to. Sometimes we have ambitions of watching more than one movie in a day, and it just doesn't seem to happen somehow.
But
I love that idea.
It was a fluke that we got to see 2 movies in one weekend. So
yeah, we get on a roll like that sometimes. That's really nice. And this weekend could be that. Though we're also going on Saturday night. We have tickets to see Glenn Hansard on St. Patrick's Day, actually.
Nice.
So to see an Irish singer-songwriter in a room full, like a really Irish singer-songwriter on St. Patrick's Day is likely to be pretty interesting.
That's going to be awesome.
But yeah, he's always amazing. I will say, I listened to his latest album called Between Two Shores and was thoroughly underwhelmed, which is, I'm usually like I can find like songs and stuff, but I was just like, oof. Nothing was really connecting. I mean, he's obviously a very talented guy, but I was like, nothing's speaking to me here. But his catalog, I celebrate much of. So I'm very, very much looking forward to that show, even though it means leaving the house.
Don't you fucking hate leaving the house? God, I hate leaving the house.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like today I had a choice in a way. I was like, I could probably work from home. But if I do that, I'm going to basically probably procrastinate more than I want to. I'm going to not maybe eat as well as I could just because of the stuff I'm able to get at work. I won't like get much of my exercise in like I normally do at work by just running around on purpose. So I kind of made myself leave the house. So sometimes I welcome that opportunity, but whenever we have like plans, I never want to go. I'm always happy ultimately, at least on some level, that we did or while we're out or doing things. But it's always, and the bride's the same way.
Oh, that's not good.
We're terrible. I know you don't watch This Is Us, but I know you can picture, I'm sure, some of the characters.
Yeah.
And the one couple, they were talking about some kind of like they're getting married and whatnot. Spoilers, I guess.
I don't need to watch a show about real life that's just going to make me feel like just bawl my eyes out for an hour. So
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously you need to make that call for yourself, but that show I think is as heartwarming, if not more so, than it is like sad. But this episode, this couple is talking
about. That stuff makes me cry just as much as the sad stuff does, though. The heartwarming stuff.
But is it like a good cry, or is that
who likes crying? Do you like cry? Like I'm never like
I like it if it's good, like, or if it's like kind of. There's some ways. I do like it a lot of times, unless I'm like
you
really
evil motherfucker.
Well, no, it's like I like to have feelings. It depends. I mean, I don't like to cry for being angry or truly upset, but I like to cry at things. Like I feel good about that. I'm staring at the Ex Machina poster, which is killing me. Like,
I know
the body of this. I gotta click off it, but
just look. Okay, so what you just experienced, get ready for 2 hours of that.
Oh my God! Why did you say so? I would have been like, I'm in 30 seconds into the pitch.
That awkwardness where you're like, I got to turn this off because she looked like. All right, bring that poster back up. Let's talk about that poster for a second.
Oh no, I'm just like thinking like, is that any representation of the actress? And then it's like, well, it's probably just a poster thing, but who cares? It's hot.
It's like a robotic spine and like so. No, it'll spoil. It'll be
I'm looking past that.
Right. All of that. There is a purpose for all of that. Just so you know.
Oh, weird. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, so I'm especially interested in this Ex Machina now. So I think that'll happen sooner rather than later.
Dread, though, you need to watch Dread. Like.
We're about to get rid of our Netflix. We have the discs. We've had the discs for years and mostly only use them for TV shows. And we were finding that we just had stuff forever and we weren't using it. And it's like, we could, with that money, get like Hulu or something.
Right.
That we could watch stuff. So, anyway, I don't know why I mentioned that because I was thinking of getting it from Netflix, but I can get it from libraries, etc.
I think you can watch it. I think it's on either Prime or Netflix.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. What was I? Oh, just to wrap up the going out in the world. So the couple, like, they're planning stuff for their wedding, like bachelorette parties. And then at some point in the discussion, they're like, and then once we've done that, then we don't have to socialize for a whole nother year. And we were like, yes, it's nice to hear that voice out loud.
Wedding season is coming up, right? And like we have 8. This is no shit. My wife is so social. We have 8 invitations to weddings that, in no joke, are in at least 5 different states on our fridge right now. And I'm just like, this is horrific. Just god awful. It's from everywhere from Washington, like, so all the like cake states I'm all for.
Oh, there you go. Cake states. Yeah.
I'm in. Like, congratulations. No, but yeah, it's horrific. But I think about it where I'm just like, listen, we just got to get through the summer. And then it's a whole nother year before wedding season comes up. She's like, can you believe this? Look at all these weddings. I was like, yeah, wait until 5 years from now when half of them have been divorced in that time and the next round of marriages all start up. Like,
we could skip more of those. I feel like there's an out there.
Oh yeah, the second ones you don't have to go to. Like, at all. So
are there any segments you want to do before we go?
No, Ash and I have been kind of slugs for the last 2 weeks, so I really don't have any updates on action steps. I mean, I spent more time in the wood shop. That's like I'm interested to. I should reach out to some of the people that I like on YouTube, because I've noticed. I have started to notice that I could very easily just burn weekend after weekend just working on my shop, like not actually making anything.
Oh yeah, like
just like making my shop, you know. Double D's beautiful bride, when I first built the wood shop, just kind of floored me once with a question where she was just like, I was talking about my wood shop because it was the year that I had built my workbenches. And I was like, yeah, and these workbenches are just going to be so awesome. And I had been working on them like over the summer, you know. And she's like, well, what are you going to make? And I'm like, well, I'm making workbenches. She's like, yeah, but what are you going to make after that? Like, it's not just, and I was just kind of like, well, what do you mean? I'm working on my wood shop, you know, like, but I feel like I want to reach out because I have noticed now in some of the videos of people that I like, a lot of their videos are just them working on their shop. It's not them actually.
Really?
There's like, for every project video where it's them making a project, there's 3 of them making something for their shop, like a new tool or a new jig or a new way to organize their tools or a new storage unit or, and I'm wondering if that's like, I mean, I could see where like I could just burn all my time doing that. So I don't really have any big updates on action steps. I listened to, I don't know if I mentioned this on the last episode, but I listened to what the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
I'm not sure if you did. I was curious about that. I just heard they talked about that on Nerdist too.
Yeah, I need to go through it again. It really is good. I don't like the way, and this is how I know it's good, is because I don't like the way that I feel after I am reflective on what it says. Meaning, I don't like what I see about myself. Things, you know, like,
oh yeah,
like it kind of hits home on a lot of stuff.
That's good, but that's hard. Yeah,
it's good, but it is like super hard. But like, I kind of coupled the two things where there was one day that I worked like all day in the wood shop with my ears in, listening to the subtle art of not giving a fuck, because it's only like a 5-hour long audiobook, right?
Oh yeah, which you can get listeners of LWSD by going to audibletrial.com/LWSD. Get the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah,
and feel bad like Palmer did.
And I was doing a lot of things. Like I had ordered an action camera, like a GoPro camera that I was
like, you did mention that,
but like a knockoff one. So it was only like $40 for this kit, you know, of all this stuff. And it shoots really good video. It's awesome. So I was like shooting that while I was working in the wood shop, just to like do a test to see what kind of video it would shoot, you know, and working in the wood shop, listening to, so I have all these action steps. Like I'm building the LWSD empire. I'm working on expanding the empire. I'm working in the wood shop, and I'm listening to a self-help book all while it's happening. And I do that for like 4.5 hours. And it's all like it's done. And I've made all this major progress everywhere. And because of because of being reflective while listening to the book and like not liking myself, I was just like, man, fuck this, fuck action step. Like, I'm just like, that's how I felt. Like, I just felt bitter. And, so I guess there's a little bit action step progress then.
That's interesting too, those two things you said, because in a way, like plowing through self-help books, I mean, I'm always in search of like quick fixes, as I'm sure everyone is, but I used to read so much stuff about like music business stuff or like small entrepreneurial things for years. And I think just in the same way, and now I do read certain self-help things as well, but like in the same way that you were talking about, so much of the woodshop thing could be just building the shop. You can really, I find sometimes like can really you could spend all your time consuming self-help stuff without actually like implementing any of it, because it is hard to take that time. It's like a drag. That's what I mean. Like the one that I did last year, the Designing Your Life, took me quite a while to get through because it's like a goddamn workbook.
Right. and I mean, and there's a lot of stuff that like you want time. So if you listen back to the best of 2017 episode, when I talk about my goals and I say I want to read 12 self-help books, I also talk about how those goals are kind of like I have them down on paper as something, but they're kind of like, I know I'm not going to hit all these. Like, I know I'm not going to, and I knew at the time the 12 self-help books for multiple reasons would be one of those ones that would be hard for me to get through 12 books. One of them just being, I'm not going to learn anything from any one of them if I'm just rushing through it to get to the next one, you know? So I figure even if I can get through a good solid, you know, just a handful of them and really take good stuff that makes a difference, that's going to be way better than just saying, yep, I checked 12 self-help books off my list, my goals for the year, you know? So, but it was a lot of stuff in that. I need to go back through now in the text version I have of it and just kind of pull out those nuggets that were good. So there's that.
A little bit one at a time. That's probably extra hard when the last feeling you have about it was like kind of bad. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, I can't wait to like re-engage with this thing that made me feel shitty.
Because that was like not 2 weeks ago. That was probably like a week ago. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before that when that happened. And I haven't given any thought to looking back at that book because of how it made me feel, other than how that book made me feel, you know, about these things.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough sell.
It is. And it's not that the book is bad. Like, I find all of that good. If I didn't feel any of those things, then it's just drivel, right? Like what is it? If I'm going to make improvement, there should be pain and growth.
Yeah.
You know, in some way. So
yeah. Otherwise it's kind of status quo, right?
Right. I really don't have anything. I don't have a major Palmer's pleasure. I don't have. Did you have any like shit the bride says or anything?
I did pull that up because I was like thinking about our sketches and or whatever, our bits, and there's a couple that are like kind of relevant to things that have come today, so I could read those. So shit the bride says from, and actually, so this is not really a spoiler. In Sherlock, the Benedict Cumberbatch show, he describes Sherlock, even himself, Sherlock, as a high-functioning sociopath.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, and so the bride would joke sometimes about that, watching that show, about whether or not she's a sociopath. And I don't know how he got onto this, but anyway, so this is February 10th. I am asking her about her short-lived aspirations to become an FBI profiler, which was a shock to me. And she said it was either be a sociopath or hunt them. And then there's a pause. I'm still on the fence, if you must know. And then she says, and then I say, that went on for a minute, and I was laughing, and then there was others. She was just going on a tear, trying to make me laugh, I think. And then I say, you're saying crazy things. She goes, I'm not crazy. I'm a psychopath, but I'm not crazy. And then I say, I thought you said you were a sociopath. Are they the same thing? She says, a sociopath is someone with a personality disorder, or as I like to call it, differently personalitied. Another quick one. The next day, February 11th, she goes, quit picking your nose, dude. We're driving, I think. And then I snap at her. I'm like, I'm having problems. And she goes, #marriage.
Oh my gosh. We have a booger picking joke in our family too.
What's that? It's an ongoing thing?
It is an ongoing thing where and it more times than not will happen in the car where I'll just be going to town. What is it about the car where you think you're in an invisible
I know.
like
You're like in a cocoon or something.
Where you're just like, I can do whatever the fuck I want in here. And I'll know that I'm doing it subconsciously. That's the other part too, is like, that's the scary thing, is you don't know that you're picking your nose like that in the car because you do it so often. So I'll be going to town and all of a sudden I'll just hear really fucking sarcastically, if you find any gold up there, let me know. I sure could use it. Or if she catches me looking at it, like, is it gold? You know, like, is it gold? Like, nope, it's all green.
That's extra funny.
Yeah.
Like, green gold is not good.
Nope.
That's funny.
So,
oh, that's good. And the last two are kind of go together in a way, not directly, but this was Valentine's Day. We were watching the Olympics, and she was objectifying a men's double luge pair. Pun always intended. She goes, they don't look like they have big packages. I'm gonna look for packages. I'm like, well, now you're getting to the Olympic spirit, I said. And then she's like, who got the goods? I think we were like in bed, like going to bed, or trying to go to bed. And she's just hollering that. And then the most recent one, on March 1st, we were talking about maybe going to see the movie Game Night in theaters. And I was like, let's see it. Let's get our laughs on. Or let's see it. Get our laughs on. And then she goes, that's what she said. Which took me a second. It took me a second, but I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
that is a good one.
So there's that. That's some shit she's been saying recently. I don't have, like... I mean, we've talked about a lot of things we like. I brought something in that I don't need to like go on about it like at Dave's Digs. Like, I'm not going to play the full intro, but I got the Twin Peaks soundtrack from the most recent reissue, or like the limited on television vinyl series. Yeah, because when we watched it, almost every episode ends with a damn near full performance in what viewers of the original show would know as the Roadhouse Bar, and I actually love it, like, as an album. Like, it's like the best fucking mixtape I've heard since like soundtracks in the mid 90s.
Awesome.
There's a song by Nine Inch Nails on there. There's a song by Eddie Vedder. There's a song by a bunch of people I don't know, and some of which is kind of like hipstery even, but I really just love the vibe of it. I can hear myself listening to this like over and over again.
David Lynch is the original hipster, by the way. Like, so
yeah,
all
but
that makes sense.
He doesn't have that, like, he's just sort of always, they don't have hipsters always like, they refer back to something and they act like they adopt it suddenly. Like, and they're like, well, I did this before it was cool or whatever. You know, all their stuff is retro, but they just decided one day.
It was like never progressed past the 1950s. Like,
yeah, but like David Lynch, like has been David Lynch as we picture him now.
Yeah.
Always. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Like,
he just literally never changed.
To be like
yeah,
up their pants and put on suspenders and.
Yeah, he's just always been doing that.
Yeah.
Since, I mean, he sort of chose it as well, like as an art kid in
right,
whatever the early 80s. In any event, like he's got an affectation of sorts, but I feel it's pretty genuinely earned, so it doesn't bother me. But it somehow too, all that kind of music does fit with him.
We spend so much time qualifying our neuroses. Have you noticed that? Like,
yeah, I do notice that. I can't help it.
There's so much of this show is spent just like.
Here's why it's okay.
Here's why it's okay that we do that thing.
Yeah. That's them, okay? This is us. That was the original tagline and tone for the program. This is us.
Oh man, Moto has a couple chats on here. I'm sorry, Moto, because I don't keep that window up all the time. He talks about AI on the new X-Files, which is an AI based on a real Twitter account, and that shit. There's some hilarious things that they've been able to get chat bots to do on Twitter that they weren't supposed to do. Microsoft turned on this chat bot that was supposed to be like really like nice and kid friendly, and they had it like wishing Hitler was back within 20 minutes. Like the internet like had it chatting, wishing that Hitler was back alive, and like
really.
They had it broken. Like it's saying this like horrific shit in like 20 minutes. Like Microsoft had to shut it down.
And it was a bot that like people on the internet essentially goaded into saying horrible things.
Yeah, like a chat bot. And so, and that's the difference. That's how it doesn't pass a Turing test, right? Is that those chat bots are still based on an algorithm. Yeah. It's not actually based on intelligent conversation. And so once you figure out the algorithm, you can steer it to say things the way that you want it to. That's what makes it that's how you're able, how it doesn't pass the Turing test. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a good example of that. And then he says, Time Cop was JCVD's best movie, according to Van Johnson, like as quoted by Van Johnson.
Oh, okay. Because I can't get on board with that.
I know you can't get on board.
It's his only number one movie, so I feel like that's why JC views it as like a high bar.
Yeah.
But I need to finish Van Johnson.
You scoff at Time Cop every time I bring it up.
I do. Yeah. Like I can't. It's not. There's so much better. But I gotta finish Van Johnson. I was thinking about having a segment just that's called JCVD and Me or JC and Me. Purely as an excuse to use this picture I found of me. I had one of those like stand-up things. They had a video stores, like a really tall thing of him like doing like a pose for Death Warrant. And I have a picture of me posing with it in my room like it's him.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, that'd be the YouTube thing that for the JC and Me segment. So I don't know. Maybe that will become a thing, but I was thinking about it.
That's awesome.
And Moto sent me I don't know if they're airing this by you. I haven't seen it. He sent me like a cell phone recording pointed at the television in the last few days of Tostitos maybe or Doritos. It's something for chips. It's not Doritos, but maybe Tostitos if that's a thing. Yeah, because Totino are the pepperoni rolls. Tostitos are the chips, I think. Anyways, JC sitting at around the campfire. Oh, that was to the thread, to the text. To the cast thread, I think, right? Yeah, he's like, JC's ready for the cabin. he's everywhere. I love it. All right. Was there another Moto?
He just said, that's why he's not getting it. JC and Me. And then he started laughing. So, yeah, no, that's...
Any King Corner? I'm recommending find this Twin Peaks soundtrack. I'm sure it's on all of your, you can stream it and stuff. But it's a bunch of different artists, but like all somehow one vibe. So it's really cool.
The only King update I have, I'm plugging through. Did you come back to the chronology at all yet?
I'm slowly working through Roadwork right now. So what I'm trying to do is make sure I spend one day a week just getting a little bit of that book listened to while I'm listening to all this other stuff for the Dog Days thing. But I've been enjoying it. I come to them so cold. I had no idea what Roadwork would be about. And so the idea of the plot with the development coming through and kind of messing up this guy's life and business and him kind of
Well, he's
psychologically
projecting onto like
that's true. Yeah.
he's making extensions to blame those things on the development. That's why that one is so good.
Yeah.
Is because it's so psychological. It's literally the book version, in my opinion. It's the book version of the Michael Douglas movie Falling Down.
Which I don't know how I never watched that. I'm writing that down too. I'm gonna start writing down.
Double D might have a conniption when he finds that out, because I know he's seen that movie and he loves that movie.
Which is funny, because isn't that movie about a guy kind of having a conniption?
It is about that, but it's the same thing where he wants to blame everything else for choices that he made, or situations that he could have easily removed himself from instead of having to deal with them, an external locus of control. I remember the bride telling me that about like certain people in her life. She's like, that person, like, it's always about something someone else has done. And I mentioned, no, I think I mentioned that to you in a private conversation, where that was a huge realization for me, getting to know someone with her shit together as well as she did, that I realized I had done my whole life up into that point. I'd always kind of made problems, things other people had done. And I've done everything I could do, or I've done my part to fix it. And never once truly owning up to the idea, like, oh, maybe I was just flat out wrong about something. Not without qualification, just wrong. That was the subtle art of not giving the fuck stuff that affected me. That I really had the most problem with was the, even if it's obviously not, take the blame for everything that happens in your life. Like, even if you had no control over it, still just take the blame for it. Because then if you're just like, yep, that was my fault, you can take all of that time of resentment where you're like, that other person, that other external thing caused that to happen, and that's why this X, Y, and Z didn't happen in my life. Whereas at the moment you realize it happened, if you're just like, yep, that's totally my fault, you have no room for resentment then. Like, you have no room to carry it with you. Like, you're just like, yep, I fucked up. That was totally on me. Let's learn from that and move on. And so it creates two things. It's one, you have no chance to carry the resentment with you. And then two, you create a learning opportunity to like grow from that experience. And so,
and possible change, right? Like,
change,
there's something because if everything's your fault, then like both good and bad things. And then you can kind of try to kind of get out of it too. It's like, it can be active, I guess. It still all really sucks, like, and it's really hard to admit.
And it is, and I think that, and I think, and I definitely know that I've been in that trap where I just want to blame something other than being accountable. I've definitely done that before. My problem is I'm a teacher, and so equity is very important to me. Like, I want things to be equitable, right? And so it really is hard for me when I know that there were obvious things that were out of my control that caused negative things in my life. It's really hard for me to let go of that.
So that would mean like you could own up to a certain point, like, these are the things I know I did, but there was also this. Like, that's the equity part of it. And like, and I can definitely see that caused this, and this. So it's and that's where I start falling into then he goes on for the rest of that chapter to talk about, if you can't just own up to it, this is what's going to happen. And all of those things, like those things where I'm just like, well, I'm not going to let this go. Like, okay, I can be accountable for all this, but this, and this, no way. Like, that's not my problem. And then he goes through the rest of the chapter. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. And I'm like, motherfucker. Like, and so then that's what makes you feel shitty. Cause you're just like, yep, that happened and that happened and that happened. And if I would have just owned up to those things and said, yep, those were my fault, then those things wouldn't have, you know what I mean? So, that was interesting. Yeah. That's a lot to, I'm not listening to that book.
Yeah. No, I mean, I need to digest it more. I'm making it sound all negative, but it's all good for me. Like, it's good for me because it's eye-opening to me. I am self-reflective, and I know that I'll look at that and those things have eaten into my brain enough now that I listened to that 2 weeks ago and I still can talk about this stuff. Like it's still fresh. It's been rolling around in my head, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's just like anything. It's got to get to that moment where the interest is genuine enough, or like you're ready to, you know, the interest. Well, I said the interest is genuine enough because I was also thinking about just the simple things. I'm that way about, like seeing a movie that I didn't necessarily, that wasn't my idea initially to see. I know it's a good idea. I know I'll enjoy it. I know I should do that, but I got to get to the point where like the tipping point is crossed and I got to take action. You know, that can be really hard when it feels like the action you have to take is too it's like, say, to admit to yourself you're wrong about something. That's hard too. Like sometimes where it's like, okay, I know I'm
something that you know that isn't your fault.
And that's the thing. Like if you don't feel like it's your fault, if you don't feel
take the blame for it so that I can move on. Like that's what I need to come to terms with. Like,
but can you do that about something? I think you have to believe
that's the whole point of the book. That's why you don't give a fuck. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm going to take blame for it. Like what the fuck? Yep. Who cares?
Interesting.
You know,
maybe I will have to try it out because I'm not.
And that's what he means. He's like, he does make a point. Like the whole like not giving a fuck thing isn't about that you don't care about anything. It's just what you choose. You're very selective about the fucks that you do give because you really don't have a bunch of them to give in life. So you should be choosy about what you give them for. So yeah, but back to the King Corner road work. I'm glad that you're back on the chronology.
I've missed it, and especially once I'm through listening to all these things for the reissue, which might be a minute. It's funny, in the concert I listened to today, it was a rough one. There was 2 times in the entire like 2 hours that anyone remotely clapped, and I was performing badly. And at some point, I say like that. I say out loud, like, I wish I could remember the rest of it, but I said something like, I never like to I was like, I'm going to blame the snow. I never like to take responsibility for a turnout. And that was a joke, but that's kind of a problem. You got to take responsibility for things.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so as soon as I'm through all that, I'm going to get back into it in a more concentrated way. And after road work, I'd have Cujo. But I'm digging road work, and it's cool how it's broken up by days. So that lends itself to this kind of piecemeal once a week.
Oh, that's right,
session.
Because it's counting down the days to when his house is going to get demolished, right? Isn't that the story mechanic? Like,
yes, I don't think I put that together, but
it goes through. Yeah. But he has until this day to be out of his house, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you sent me a text. You sent me a text about your chronology just the other day. That's pretty exciting.
I'm powering through. So I got through the whole Mr. Mercedes trilogy. I just listened to all 3 of those back to back, just to do the trilogy as a whole. That was really good. I know, like, a lot of fans do not like all of the like 2010 books. Like, there's not very many of them that people. I mean. Well, I think 11/22/63 and Under the Dome came out prior to 2010. The Mr. Mercedes trilogy doesn't get a lot of a lot of people don't like that. They don't like they do like Revival a lot. Didn't like it. They like Revival a lot, which is that one that I said that was almost like a Frankenstein story.
Oh,
in more ways than one. That one was awesome. I like that one a lot. I've liked all of these, and I like them for as remorseless as he is in his, like, from the books from the 1980s, right? So I'm listening to the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and in the first book of the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, he introduces a dog, and I'm just like, oh, that poor fucking... As soon as he introduces the dog, I'm like, and that poor fucking dog is going to die horrifically. I'm going to carry nightmares about how that dog is going to die. Because I just know what he's going to do, right? He only introduces dogs to play on your sympathies so that he can torture them and kill them. And the dog, the dog makes
a flaming puppy.
Yeah.
The puppy's on fire.
I swear someone could be off right now and I wouldn't even know it because there's a puppy on fire. Uh, but the dog makes it. It survives the book.
Oh, good. Spoilers.
Even the book is leading towards where the dog is going to die horrifically. And you're just like, oh, this is going to be so bad. And then it doesn't happen. And so a lot of fans don't like this because they feel like he pulls punches where he wouldn't have before.
Oh.
And so like I'm using the dog as an example, but they use the Mr. Mercedes example because the main three characters survive the entire trilogy. Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like
the nerve.
I think though, and I talked about this when I talked about Dr. Sleep, a lot of people don't like it just because he's sentimental. Like I said, like, so The Shining is about alcoholism, and Dr. Sleep, I really feel like, is about recovery. And Joyland is this beautiful, like, coming of age mystery ghost story, and Revival is about what happens after death, and Mr. Mercedes is about retirement, life, like how to find purpose in retirement, you know, in old age, you know.
Yeah.
And they just all have this like sentimentality to them that like you can just see, like he's like, if the chronology is the best way to do this, where I've devoted 4 years, more than that now. I mean, I have to think like 2012, so 6 years. Like let's say 5. We'll split the difference, right?
Wow.
Of me working through this chronology. But if you think that's almost a 40-year career, right?
Yeah.
Like, so cram 40 years of writing into 5 years, and you really get to know somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see him grow as a person. And I've talked about before, like how I think how the reason his answers for why he did things changes over that 40 years is because he's trying to figure it out at that moment when that question's asked. And he's using his basis for reference of where he's at in his life at that moment because if you listen about his writing process, he doesn't do a lot of like pre-writing. He just lets the story flow out of what it is, so that he views his writing where he is a reader when he's writing it. Like he's watching the story happen just like a reader would be when they're reading it. And so that's why his answer changes every time, because he doesn't think about his writing. He just lets it happen. You know, he's kind of like the conduit for it to happen. And so because of that, you really do see a growth. You see this like cynical young man who's just like, fuck you. Like I'm going to change the world. He still has that like hippie protesting Vietnam mentality, like through the 80s, like I'm going to change the world. Right. And then in the 90s, it's like coming to terms with, I can't, okay, I'm not going to change the world, but maybe I can just change me. Right. Because he's doing a lot of, that's where he's going through his recovery, you know? And then in the like early 2000s, it's more of the like, okay, we can change, working on me helped change the world. So let's look at that, you know? And now he's just like this old man who's a grandpa that's just like looking back, and like in his writing is reflecting that. And it's just so beautiful and awesome. And just like, he sticks to that adage, that old writer's adage of write what you know. So like his characters age with him, you know, and he's not still trying to write. Like if you look at his stuff from the 80s, the writer characters that dominate his books are all like in their 20s or early 30s, where he was, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then as they get, like, as those writer characters appear later in later books, like they're getting older, just like he's getting older, you know? And he's always writing what he knows. And it's just so, it is really beautiful. And I think that you really can only appreciate, I can totally understand why people don't like the last decade of books as much. I mean, they're definitely not as powerful, I don't think, as the stuff from the 80s. But they just have this, it's like a refined Stephen King, where it doesn't feel like, it feels like a recovering cocaine addict instead of a cocaine addict.
Yeah.
Like, I would hope he would appreciate that, simile. But yeah, so
That's awesome. That is beautiful.
I'm on Bazaar of Bad Dreams right now, which is his latest short story collection. It's one of the most comprehensive audio versions of his collection of short stories. Those will typically be truncated. So like none of the short stories are abridged, but not all of the short stories that are in the print will make it to audiobook, typically.
Yeah,
in his collection.
I always thought that was weird.
This one, though, is massive as an audiobook as far as short stories go. Like, there's a ton of short stories, and he does an intro to every one, which is beautiful. And like reads the intro it's him reading the intro, and then somebody else reading the story.
Oh, that sounds great.
Oh, is it fantastic? Because it just, like, you get instant insight for the inspiration for this story. And then you get to hear the story, and you get to hear him say it. And then the people who read the short stories are all of his most recent narrators from his audiobooks. So like Will Patton did the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. He read all three of those. He read it. He also read Mr. Mercedes as well. And he's an actor. You'd know him if you saw him.
Yeah. Am I right? Did he do Dr. Sleep? Because I feel like we talked about that, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, he read Dr. Sleep. Yeah, he read the whole Mr. Mercedes trilogy. He reads a couple of these short stories. The guy that read 11/22/63, he reads one of the short stories. So some of the narrators are familiar, but you always get him in between each one, like talking, just giving a little, like 4 paragraphs about what this, like where this story comes from. And
that sounds perfect.
It's really awesome, and I'd highly recommend. And then the short stories are really strong too. I've liked just about all of the short stories. Some of them are super short, some of them are really long, but all of them are really good. So that's what I'm working on right now. I did just get from the library though, Sleeping Beauties, which I have Gwendy's Button Box to get through after Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which that's just a short story that he collaborated with somebody on. And then after that is Sleeping Beauties. And then I am officially caught up on the Stephen King chronology. That's
wow.
If I get done before May, The Outsider comes out in May, which is his newest one, his 2018 book. So I would like to be done before May so that I can say I am officially current with Stephen King.
That's pretty cool. And then this summer is the TV series based on like his universe, right? The Castle Rock series on Hulu.
Yeah, on Hulu. I got to try to convince Ash to get Hulu before then.
I think that's the one that we'll get to make up for the DVD thing that we're going to cancel from Netflix. When we currently have in the house the latest season of Game of Thrones, which is the last thing we're actually really watching on disc from Netflix. And so I think after that we're going to switch over. So I'm hoping to watch that over this summer.
Awesome. Well, that's all I pretty much have for King Corner.
That was a pretty amazing King Corner from my perspective, hearing you talk about that overview. And it's really all of those things that you vocalize so well about why I've loved to follow people's careers so closely and so loyally. That's all I really do. That's how I watch and or listen to anything. There's only the occasional outlier of like a curiosity, but usually it's just like, okay, so-and-so's new thing, and I'll watch it. And that's what I love to see, all you were saying about watching them grow as a person, watching them people grow creatively, seeing sort of myself grow alongside them if it's in real time. And Yeah, that's pretty wicked though that you've been able to do that with Stephen King over such a long career.
And you can actually see it like that's like, I don't recommend, if you're gonna like, well, I don't recommend that anybody do that. I can't see anybody without our kind of personalities, like the completest, let's just binge of as much of this artist as we can. I can't see a lot of people thoroughly enjoying that. Like, I take that back. I have listened to the Harry Potter series because I try to go through the Harry Potter series once a year, as well as the Dark Tower series once a year. But for the last 6 years, essentially the only audiobooks I've listened to have been Stephen King books. A lot of people would not enjoy that.
Yeah, even I can't be as I have not been able to be as dedicated as you, where that's the only
But I
thing.
can say it is so eye-opening to, you literally get to see this artist grow in their craft. And to see the choices that they make and all that stuff, and get to know them. Yeah, I don't know if I could ever, this is funny, like, because you get to know them through their work. I don't know if I'd ever want to meet Stephen King in person, because I don't think I would like him. And
because of what you know of him from his work?
No, I just don't know. Like, I don't know if I would be constantly worried that he was thinking I was a crazy fan, because he's like, he is so open about how he just assumes all of his fans are crazy fans. You know, like they're all like Annie Wilkes from Misery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and unfortunately, I know there are fans. I mean, obviously, that inspired that. You know, so. But there's a few of his stories that deal with these kinds of fans, and I'm just like, I would be worried he would think because I'd want to talk Dark Tower, and I'd want to be like, you know, that series of books changed my life, and I know there's plenty of people that have probably said that to him, and yeah, I would not. I don't think if I ever got to meet him, I should just, maybe this is a better way to say it. I don't think I would enjoy it if I ever got to meet him, because I would be worried that I'm just like, oh, I'm just fulfilling this like archetype that this predetermined notion that he has of me, because I can't stop rambling about the Dark Tower and how awesome it is. So
yeah, that's why I for the same reasons. I never really like think about meeting any of the people I admire, because I don't have any. I know tons about them, obviously, but I just don't know how that conversation could go.
Right.
Right. It's too weird. It's too uncomfortable for me. I don't want to do it.
Today is a huge day for a lot of reasons. Stephen Hawking passed away today.
Oh yeah,
that really bothered me a lot. I did not expect that to affect me as much as it did, but it did. It was like I just see that as like this idea of imagination and of dying with him, like this idea of exploring and everything. But he's definitely inspired. But there's Pi Day. It was like Einstein's birthday. All these things merged today. And we got to record episode 43, A Long Short Drink,
in which we talked about some sciencey stuff, right? I guess
we did. I'm just saying, like, it was just like this culmination of a day. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, likewise. I always look forward to this.
Yeah. So be sure to subscribe on Stitcher, iTunes, or Google Play Music. Search Long Short Drink. You'll be able to find us there and subscribe. You'll get all the audio versions of these conversations that we actually put, like, edited down and put out with the sound bites and everything. You can subscribe on iTunes. Please subscribe on iTunes. The more subscribers we have, the closer we get to that 100 mark, where we get our unique URL.
Oh, the YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is the one where...
Did I say YouTube?
Yeah. I think you said iTunes, unless I was
not
listening right.
No, YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube. There you get to see the video versions of these conversations, as well as if you click the bell, you'll get notified every time we go live. So that way you'll be able to watch us recording these and get the whole conversation. You can reach out to us on Twitter at LWSD Pod. Email us at lwsdpod@gmail.com, and be sure to visit audiotrial.com/LWSD for your audio trial and free audiobook.
Audible, though I'm sure
Audible trial.
Our listeners know. Our listeners know the deal, and if you haven't gone there, why not?
Yeah.
So like lackluster, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Dave, thanks a lot, buddy.
You are welcome. I was just noticing that I don't say you are welcome. I often say yeah, which I didn't realize I did. And you had called out, like, not against me, but you were like, you had told me a while back you're trying to say you're welcome.
Because people don't say you're welcome. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I always used to do that as a kid and was always struck by people who said yeah. And somehow I became a person who says yeah.
Or of course. I was really bad about saying of course. Like, well, of course I'm going to do that.
I feel like I tried to say you're welcome with my tone, but as I hear myself on this podcast a lot, I'm like, I'm not saying it. So I need to say it. So you are welcome. You are most welcome. You're always welcome.
You are, and it feels weird saying you are welcome. Like because
it does a little bit.
You start to realize how many times people needlessly thank you. You don't need to say thank you as many times as we say thank you as a people. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like sign-offs and emails are so often thanks, even though I often wonder, I'm like, am I thanking them for something for real? And if not, then maybe I won't say thanks.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah.
Like we do say needlessly thank you a lot for things that I don't think you should thank somebody for being a good human being. You should just be a good human being, right? Like you should thank them for going out of their way to be a good human being, you know?
Yes, yes. Which we thank our listeners for going out of their way to listen to our 3-hour podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which we did genuinely. Almost fill it out to 3 hours. So
can't help it.
Not at all. No. Listen, we had episodes that were up to 5 hours. Again, if this is your first episode, good luck on catching up, fuckers. Like, not gonna happen. Thousands of hours. Like,
oh, it's worthwhile. It's so worthwhile.
It is. There's good shit back there. You won't get any of the in jokes, just so you know. But yeah, man. But I think we've been really good about wrapping up by 11. So we've been really good about starting pretty much on time, wrapping up pretty much on time. They've been shaping up. I've noticed these last few episodes have been like right around like 2 hours, 50 minutes, which is good. So still longer than a typical movie in the theater, which is fantastic. But it's perfect because you can get 2 episodes in a day if you really are committed in a work day, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, they're a good one to where you can walk around with it, spend some time, hang out.
Yeah.
And it is literally like, it feels to me like this is how long we would talk if we were talking on the phone. And this is why I usually don't call people, because usually I can't, no one can do a 3-hour call.
Right.
Or I'm still often thinking of it as like a virtual beer with your buddy. So if we went and hung out, that might be a lot of beers. In any event, it feels like a good size.
I think typical dudes, though, like I don't think it's out of the question to say I'm going to go out for beers with the guys one night a week. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And we just have to be doing it virtually. So
yeah, we cracked the code.
I have to piss like a racehorse. So
yeah, this might be our first 3 hours without a pee break. So let's.
Yeah, that is impressive. Like, I can't imagine what you're going through right now.
I don't know why I don't have to go as much. Yeah, but we'll sign off with that. Thanks so much to you, my friend. Thanks to all our listeners.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, yes, indeed. You are also welcome. Cheers, long walkers.
Awesome.
We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you guys next time, long walkers. Talk to you later. Have a good one.